Hello, hello. So, this is just a random live stream. I wrote news of the day. There's been a lot of links being shared, and I've been too busy to look at them. And I've even mentioned, well, why don't, because Margaret sent me some links, and I said, if they're good, maybe I won't watch them and we can watch them together as a way of doing some content. And hopefully it will be different. I'm just going to tell somebody here stream. I'm just going to check. Before I do that, why don't we go to YouTube? I'm just popping this up for a second. Just give me time to get myself ready. Let's listen to this first.
He said, science wants you to believe that it's all about measurement and reason if you allow them one miracle. That one miracle is the Big Bang.
Yes.
That all things come from the most preposterous idea ever.
Yeah.
That everything came from nothing in one big miracle.
That's right. I completely
totally
agree with that.
paraphrased
Yeah,
it.
I
He
love
probably
that.
said it far more eloquently.
Well, this was for Fred Hoyle's objection to the Big Bang.
Mm.
He said he was a Democritean. He didn't believe. He said nothing comes from nothing, and I simply refuse to believe that the physical universe came from nothing physical. And moreover, he said it smacks of the Genesis account, which he detested, and so he rejected the Big Bang and formulated this steady state model.
By the way, really quick, that steady state model that he's talking about is the idea of a past eternal universe, which modern science is basically now totally debunked. Just context.
Yeah, I've said this a lot of times as well. If time, space, and matter had a beginning, they're not eternal. Then, if you don't talk in, let's say, religious terms, and say God, but if you say this source or singularity that occurred, and we can use the Big Bang as well. Herbal tea. Wow, that's hot. If we're talking about the beginning of time, space, and matter, then we can naturally say, well, if space came into being at one point, then it's quite normal that whatever that singularity, that source, would be outside of time. It could be, it's timeless because it is the origin through which time occurred. Same thing as the vastness of space, where they are able to look at the light spectrums and something about the frequency of red. They can see that it's expanding on all sides, going further and further. So that means that the origin that created the space in which time and matter can have a medium to function in, that invisible aspect must be either infiniteless or is able to produce a vast amount of space. So it is outside of space and time as well. And then if prior to this source created material stuff, so it means that thing is immaterial. So when you have an immaterial, omniscient, timeless source, it starts to look like we're getting into God's country here. I'm just getting some herbal tea. Hop on, Margaret, right now. Just sending you the link. I just put this one because I knew I had to prepare some stuff. So I'm gonna pop up. Here we go. Let's continue and just listen. It's a short one.
That was later, I think, decisively refuted by the discovery of the cosmic background radiation. Because it happens, I've had funny coincidental meetings with Hoyle, Herman Bondi, and Thomas Gold, all three of the architects of the steady state model. I met Bondi and Hoyle when I was a PhD student in Cambridge. And Hoyle held on to his dying day for the steady state. But Bondi, actually, we had a conversation about it, and he said that well, it turned out that it was a brilliant idea. It was a beautiful idea. Just that it turned out that everything about it was wrong, and he rejected it. So, but later, Hoyle had his own conversion to a kind of quasi-theistic worldview because of his discovery of the fine-tuning parameters. But the point is that the materialist.
Yeah, if you go into scientists that are speaking about the fine-tuning as well of the universe, because atheists will tend to look deeply into space and say, oh, look, or test physical science and the laws that govern the universe. And they'll say, see, we don't need God, because now we can look, we can examine these forces. We can go peer at stars. We can look deep into cellular, things look very deep into atoms, etc. So if the further that you peer, the more complex actually it looks and it works against an unguided process. But even if we're able to peer far and do certain examinations, it still doesn't say who put the stars there. We can look at orbits, but we still don't know how all of those marbles got placed perfectly so that they're orbiting effectively. Everything, a little bit too much here, life would not arrive. A little too much there, life would not arrive. Hey, Margaret, I just popped you on.
Hi. Yeah, I'm here.
Okay, I'm just tell me to stop if you want to comment on this, or take time while this is playing to maybe find the links, maybe have them popped up, or I will.
Did not expect to have this evidence from the beginning. Hoyle thought that the laws of physics were the first law of conservation of matter and energy. Matter and energy are neither created nor destroyed except at the Big Bang. So, and he didn't like that, but eventually I think the physics community came around. There were so many indicators of that beginning event.
Now, again, as we're discussing detection methods and our ability to understand things is so radically different from 1920, 100 years ago. What is it going to be like 100 years from now? Is this, they're going to be, are we making assumptions based on very limited data? It's a lot of data question for us, but it seems fairly limited given the scope of not just this universe, but then the concept of multiverses. Like, what are your thoughts of this concept of multiple universes?
I love to talk about the multiverse.
Or infinite universes.
Yeah, I'm glad you raised it. And this also connects to the Fred Hoyle story, which is fascinating. Again, with the proviso, science is necessarily provisional, and we
of course
always have to be open to new data.
Right.
But the trend lines, I think, are the things that are really interesting. So there's this Hoyle's. Let's start with Hoyle, and then we'll get to multiverse. Okay. So Hoyle is a great astrophysicist. He's thinking about carbon, and he realizes that carbon has this unique property of being able to make long chain-like molecules, and long chain-like molecules, therefore, are capable of storing information, and we need information to build specified structures, in particular living systems. So he's trying to explain the abundance of carbon in the universe. And he thinks of 4 or 5 different ways.
Okay, Margaret, I already have the one there, aliens attack village in Peru, that you had sent me.
Oh, good. Okay.
So you don't have to look for that one. And were you the one you sent me as well? Scientists finally reveal truth about the Shroud of Turin.
Yes, I did.
Okay, so I'm gonna try and get that one while people listen to this one. But yeah, for people like that are ignorant, in my case, it's like, look, I don't have a PhD and a fancy degree in university and stuff like that, and often will get it's very hard for me to speak from a position of self-admitted ignorance, even though I can use my logic and rationale and say that I think it's way more preposterous to say that nothing created everything in an unguided process than saying, well, maybe something created and it's showing intelligence. Like Dawkins says, it appears to be intelligently designed, but it is not. So he himself even acknowledges, yeah, it really, really does look like
But
it's designed.
you have these scientists looking for the God particle,
Yeah, yeah.
but they will never be able to find God because my theory is that we're in God. He's the complete universe.
Yeah, for sure.
It's like
Yeah.
you're looking inside yourself and you see your blood cells red, white, uh,
Mhm.
all that stuff. That's my theory.
Well, no, it makes sense. We are within His creation. It clearly says that the early scientists that were Christian believed in a lawgiver, believed that we are in the image of God. They believed in intelligence, so that's why they sought out initially and said, "Well, we can peer into God's creation," because it says that His invisible qualities are known by what is created. And when they first started seeing these fixed laws, and as science, the forefathers started building, it was all based on the confidence, the faith that if this is the God we have, then if we peer into His creation, using eventually more and more sophisticated tools and science, that they were actually that was a form of seeking out God and stuff like that. At this point, physical science is not, you don't have, meaning whether you can do physical science or not does not rely on, in a way, your worldview. The problem is worldview comes in when science is using current decay rates of certain things, making a assumption, a pre-assumption that these things are constant, and then after doing calculations that project way, way, way into the past, and then after being closed-minded and just not publishing when things don't fit what they truly believe, is like, no, this is the truth. So let's do science that continually, in a way, reinforces what we already think is right. So science has been corrupted that way. We know in food, we've seen that it's like, why isn't the truth getting out? It's pretty simple. And yet science, the corruption within it becomes solidified. And there's the universities and these sorts of scientists, they're in their little box, for sure. There are some like him that at least have the credentials. There's also James Tour, who has, I think, over 100,000 citations and peer reviewed. He works in nanotechnology. James Tour, and he has tons of videos out as well. And look, if I'm going to try and talk about this subject, knowing that I come from a place of ignorance, it's very hard for me to have a conversation, because I am not trained in this. Then people might criticize and say, "Oh, well, you're relying on an appeal to authority," and I'm like, no problem. I have no problem appealing to authority in certain realms. But this is him. We're still, a professor of chemistry. If you look at his credentials, appealing to the authority. James Tour is professor of chemistry, professor of computer science, and professor of material science and nanoengineering at Rice University, a synthetic organic chemist who received his BS, Bachelor of Science in Chemistry from Syracuse, his PhD in synthetic organic organometallic chemistry from Purdue, blah, 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 blah. It goes on. He has 700 research publications.
Whoa.
the patents. And so he has credentials. So when he's making claims, and he's not making claims upon young Earth creationism and things like that, but he is he is going against those that talk about origin of life. I guess there's sub branchings of evolutionary biologists or chemists, stuff like that. They're making really, really big claims to the point of saying that they've created a cell, and he is calling them out. Probably not well liked in that particular field, and he's calling them out. And it's really important because for me, I wouldn't know. The guy said makes a claim, I don't know. But when peers come and he's you don't hear him preaching ever anything about the gospel when he's making this. He's using his scientific background to say it's not going to happen. You guys are not like, we can give you all of the parts of a cell in a dead cell. Here's a dead cell, bring it back to life. You have all the parts. You know, why can't you bring a dead cell back to life? Yet you're trying to create life. And you know, something that came up in my head was not only that. Remember, DNA emits biophoton light. Do you remember that PubMed?
Yeah, briefly.
So how the heck are they going to create not only digital code? And he's talking about these origin of life people being so far from it that it's like, guys, you haven't even been able to make things like functioning sugars and fats and proteins. DNA becomes like, you know, essential right away when creating proteins, enzymes, and things like that. So like even at that earlier stage, just to create enzymes from proteins and things like that, there's already genetic code, there's already information, and this stuff is already beaming with biophoton light. Like, you know, what a waste in a way. They're never going to find it. He has harsh criticisms for that. Let me just write DNA biophoton light. Over here. So biophoton emission, new evidence for the coherence of DNA as a source of biological light emission. So these people that James Tour is butting heads against, we can see James Tour here on YouTube. So I kind of use him, and I trust what he says. He has a lot on the line to say certain things because he's active scientist that relies basically on publications. This other guy too, he has a PhD, the one that's talking. So here, scientists make a cell. He has lots of content. Scientist challenges data on biogenesis, evolution. Darwin's this is the only scenario for intelligent, like, so he has a lot of stuff. This guy pops up often. This is another, like, you want to call John Lennox an idiot for being Christian, go ahead. This guy has multiple PhDs. He's a mathematician, and he takes creation and a lot of secular materialism claims, and just on the grounds of math, things don't add up. So
they're trying to make a cell, or they've made a cell.
They not him, but people. I guess there's a category of scientists that work on that, and they make very big claims to people that see a nice headline, you know, about certain things, and he's saying no, that what the bells and whistles that they're claiming have nothing to do with the cell developing this over billions of years through an unguided process, when they're making certain claims where they can't even make a polymer, you know, to make things stick together. within the cell, there's lots of these chemical processes occurring that take up space within the cell that is
Right.
pure junk, and then they clean the cell out. So they're doing all sorts of things to try and facilitate and aid so that they can make this claim. But he's saying
Could
no.
it be that they put out these papers and reports just so they can get a paycheck?
Yes, of course. Yeah. And probably him too. This is how these scientists, well, a lot of them are paid as well through their university. They're probably professors and stuff like that. But yeah, university professors are easily approached, in the hospital, for example, by pharmaceutical companies to start doing lectures for that company. And then you have conflicts of interest. But if you're into a lot of the origin of life, you want to know where the science is, at least you have a credible person that still
Because
works.
you
Yeah,
posted, you called it your little guy with Reeboks on. That's
yeah,
in the cell. He's transporting nutrients and oxygen to the cell,
yeah,
right?
exactly. Well, I don't even know it.
Well,
See,
and then
that
you
one
have,
looks like building something. The Reebok guy,
yeah,
um, because like the cell, when it comes to oxygenation, is well, the hemoglobin is made, and a lot of that is just caused by diffusion. They flow through the cardiorespiratory system. They pick up CO2. They deliver the oxygen that has to go back to the lung, and
no,
the
it's too complex. It's God made. No matter how they work it, they won't be able to do it.
no, exactly.
It would have to be the size of the Empire State Building for them to do it.
Yeah, and probably still they would deny it. But this one,
You know?
I don't think I showed it. Here's James Tour. You can go see his talks. He has talks and debates. And I did show previously his credentials. We're going to watch this after. Anything else to say about specifically abiogenesis or origin of life, which Darwinism acknowledges that Darwin has a theory of once life has come, how is this life, like how is this life ends up becoming a variety of other systems of body systems and different, from one primordial soup comes the fish, and then amphibians, and then land creatures and birds, and the variety of vegetation, things like that. Anything to add for here? Then we'll go on to the next video.
If you're putting up the one about the village, prepare people.
Okay, well you'll give the precursor. You'll give the intro to that one. Like I said, we're just listening to interesting stuff that has been passed around. Check things out. Let's finish this one quick.
Okay. Excuse me. I had some cucumbers. Oh, the one about the resurrection of Jesus.
Yeah, I
In the
was going to check
shroud.
that next.
The pathologist confirmed that it was two beating on Jesus with whips.
Yes, one was taller than the other. Even they could tell, eh?
Yeah.
Yeah, let me try and find that one. I'm gonna let it play. Tell me to stop if this guy continues and you want to say something. I'm gonna find that one too. So it's popped up.
predicated on his awareness as a physicist of the evidence for the universe as a setup job, the Goldilocks universe, as some physicists have called it. So that's kind of, as Hoyle said, a kind of common sense interpretation. When we see other systems that are finely tuned, like a French recipe or an internal combustion engine, what we mean by fine tuning is an ensemble of improbable parameters that work together to accomplish
Right.
some remarkable outcome or functional or remarkable outcome. That's what, if you see an internal combustion engine, you think it was engineered because it's finely tuned. So common sense. The contrary argument to that, the main one, there have been others, but not even most secular physicists regard them as compelling anymore. The main contrary argument has been the idea of the multiverse. That yes, our universe has this array of jointly improbable parameters that are in that sweet spot, but we just happen to be the lucky one because there's a gabillion other universes out there.
Sorry about that, guys. I think at one point me and Margaret could hear the audio, but I hadn't switched the page. I'm not going to rewind it because this was kind of just one that I popped up before Margaret could get here, so it wasn't really one that I wanted to focus on. But he, questions atheism, can't answer. Pretty impressive. Joe Rogan's had him on, and a lot of other people that are in academia but do not adhere or have harsh criticisms about Darwin, which a lot of Darwinists and new atheists like Dawkins talk like this is a gospel truth. It's a solid case, and at best, from my position of ignorance, it's not as clear cut. And just like a nutritional science, they have their own cognitive dissonance. They have, it's not opened as much as you would think. You go against the grain, likely you're not going to get subsidized.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
And with different combinations.
Sorry, if you had missed it, me and Margaret were listening. What I do remember from what he was explaining, he's just talking about the fine tuning of the universe. That's a huge, something very huge, that if things were just a little bit this way or a little bit that way, the gravity wasn't set this much, then stars would implode or dissipate. So the fine tuning of the universe, another reason why scientists should gauge, and when they come to these conclusions, realize, wow, like we're in, like he had mentioned, the Goldilocks effect. Everything is just perfect. And they can do the calculations that if it was just a wee bit off, life on Earth would not be able to come into fruition. That's
Right.
very important,
Of the laws and constants of physics and different initial conditions at the beginning of those universes. So all those things that were just right in our universe are, yes, extremely improbable, but there's so many other universes that the probability of a universe with that set of life-friendly conditions arising somewhere had to arise somewhere inevitably, and we just happen to be in that lucky universe. And then we are stunned by that, and they call that this observer selection effect.
We have like Richard Dawkins, right? He's fine with, well, maybe there's aliens, extragalactic brothers that came and seeded life on Earth here, which just projects backwards. And okay, well, who is the creator of these, these creatures within time, space, and matter? And then others will say, well, we could say the same thing. Who created God? Well, the source that created time, again, has to be timeless. If it's created material, this source, unless you want to say nothing created everything, you have to at least say this singularity, this source that made material is immaterial. And you get, again, to very religious terminologies.
So that's superficially an equally plausible explanation to the fine-tuner argument. And a lot of physicists have told me that they regard the two as a wash. You can believe in a fine-tuner, or you could believe in a multiverse. I think the fine-tuner, we'll call it theistic design argument, provides a better overall explanation.
In both scenarios, there is a level of faith that is required. we don't have evidence for a multiverse in the way that people would want evidence of God. Atheists want to see some physical manifestation of God, and they also don't have that for the multiverse. Rather, what you do is you look at what we can observe, and then you make inferences based on that. So I love the example that he gave of a combustible engine. I love the example that he gave of a well-made recipe. You look at the recipe and you infer that there might be a cook that played a role somewhere in this extremely well-designed recipe. You look at a combustible engine, you think there was probably an engineer. You look at a painting like, like the Mona Lisa, and you think, I wonder if there was a painter's handiwork somewhere along the way. You look at the complexity of a computer system, and you think maybe there was a designer behind this as well. You look at this universe and its complexity, and you realize that due to that fine-tuning effect, perhaps, just perhaps, that there was actually design that went into this for the same reasons. Or you say, well, wait a second, like he already kind of explained that.
Excuse
Maybe
me.
just feel like it's special, but really it's just a numbers game where we're lucky in the multiverse. Both, however, require faith. Neither of those scenarios meets the level of the
Yeah, they're often blind to faith because they've tried to, again, create a straw man and say that faith is trust without believing. You know, it's like faith is just blind faith, believing something, and that's not true. Like faith, truth, it's exactly the same thing. If you have faith in something, you might later on lose your faith in that thing or gain your faith, and that just becomes normal with investigation. As you get more and more information, your faith or your trust in something will change. People have faith in themselves. They have faith in certain systems, science, which is a scientific method that is used to investigate what is created. Well, you can have scientism. You can have presuppositions, assumptions that you always start with. And what are your thoughts? You agree kind of with that, or?
I don't understand where they're trying to find another universe. A
Me neither.
multi-dimensional universe, whatever.
Yeah.
I don't understand that. Or how, no, it's beyond me.
Yeah, same here. It's well, the importance is that they don't want any accountability. They don't want to be held accountable for anything, and they philosophically, or logically, like if we take things from okay, your viewpoint starts that nothing, no intelligence or anything created everything. Okay. Then after, because nothing created everything, then there's really no purpose. Therefore, we're at best to find our purpose within this, this universe during our lifetime. So the atheist has no objective purpose, but only in a way relative purpose that they're using. And we see that anything that happened very early on in this chemical soup, this primordial soup model, that again, that's where the scientists are trying to do origin of life studies. They're trying to make this chemical soup. They call it intelligently designed. So now they're designing this because they're intelligent. They still have no idea how to do it. I have no idea.
In other words, they're so smart that they're stupid.
Yeah, he's making the wise seem foolish. I think it's wasted science. The science that is physical science, like developing better technologies and defining, science, biology, chemical science, stuff that you can see and come up with this kind of information, peering out. All this is good because we're doing stuff in a way at present time. But and you can make future predictions from that, but trying to go billions and billions and billions and billions of years back using substances here, not knowing, since science has been, let's say 200 years, probably less, the serious science where we can measure stuff, you're looking at decay rates in the last century, at best 2 centuries. and you're not acknowledging that, well, that's a presupposition that I have to start with to try and make these vast ages. There was one where they acknowledge now that they might be 1.5 billion years off of 8 billion. I mean, that's
That's a lot.
it's like almost like yeah, exactly. So that's quite a large
Yeah, but
margin of
even with
error.
the carbon dating, they're off because there's a whole lot of factors that you have to take in.
Yeah.
How long does this take to decay? The Americans and the Russians are setting off nuclear bombs. Well, that causes radiation too. So that's in the product that you're trying to age.
Yeah, I think carbon dating, what I've heard from authorities, not ignorant people like me, is that, yeah, they do a lot of science, and when the carbon dating doesn't match, they don't publish. Oh, it must be contaminated. Oh, there must be this. Carbon dating is very inaccurate, and but I can't say that because I'm not a scientist. But
Right.
that's why I do watch scientists, and why should I assume that this scientist that is defending more mainstream, and this scientist that's not just a scientist that's working at young earth creation publications and stuff like that, even though I don't think that they're lying, it just shows how close-minded that these creationists and those going against Darwin's theory can't even get really valid publications in there. So that's not open-minded as well. It's very close-minded. Like, why
And
don't
like the
go ahead?
artifacts, they found some artifacts. One of them, it looks like the foot of some kind of mechanism. It's 99% aluminum,
Yeah.
and it is corroded. And they don't know where it came from, but it's like a 250,000 years old. Well, how do they get, you can't carbon date metal.
Yeah,
So,
exactly. Like I said, I mean, look, they're saying that T-Rexes lived 66 to 68 million years ago. Let me see here. Share screen. You know what? I'm going to put that aside. We'll talk about the T-Rex. T-Rex have simple tissue. So there is a publication, and so they're finding certain cellular structures and even flexible tissue inside T-Rex bones that technically it doesn't make sense that here the Jurassic period, which lasted 145 million years ago to 200 million years ago, and now they're snapping bones, and they're finding that many of them are, well, partially, I guess, fossilized, but not completely, and that there's literal tissue that still remains. We'll check that out shortly. Let's just finish this guy over here. Present screen. Joe Rogan's question. I like Joe Rogan, though. He's open-minded.
yeah.
Criteria of evidence that atheists want God to be able to bring to the table, neither can the multiverse theory bring that to the table. So we're left in a place of faith at this juncture. But again, in the scenario of there being an intelligent designer, we also have a bedrock for ethics, for human rights, for human dignity, for the fact that we actually have things like love that exist, things like thoughts that exist that are immaterial. All of these other things begin to make more sense in the context of there being an intelligent designer, i.e. God. What's inconvenient about that is that then you also have this idea of an authority. If there's a personal intelligence above us and who has created the universe, then we're on the hook in terms of him being an authority. This is where C.S. Lewis talks about we desire a heavenly grandfather, not a heavenly father. We want someone that gives us presents and scratches our back and gives us all the things that we like, but never asks anything of us and does not ask us to be under their authority in any way. And I really think that that is the rub, and the reason that the multiverse theory is more appealing is people, when their hearts are hard against God, simply cannot stand the idea of his authority, because that
Yeah, that's exactly here. We can finish that, but yeah, I want to talk about when does morality, when does that occur? Is morality agency held to a moral standard? Does that have anything to do with the primordial molecules prior to actual life being generated? What about that first generated blob that now has life? Does that have moral agency? Should it be held accountable? We can go up the animal kingdom. A shark that chomps a surfer's leg in Florida, kills a surfer. Is that animal, is that shark held morally accountable? Is that an evil
No,
or a good?
that animal is just doing what it comes naturally.
That's it. Here,
Evidence.
I'll just finish this off. I gotta go pee.
that means that they're not God. And so just some things to consider. All this being said, you guys, this was another awesome clip. I love the Rogan Stephen Meyer mashup. I hope you guys do too. I might try to pull one more out of there. If not, we'll move on to some other good content, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Thanks a lot. Bye. I literally beg you to listen to this video at least until the point where John Lennox gives his analogy about his wife and cooking, because it is one of the best analogies I've ever heard in explaining the difference between Christianity and every other religion. Let's go ahead and dive in.
In a society where we have access to many religions, how do we decide which one to follow?
Well, I only know one way of deciding which of anything to believe is on the basis of evidence. You see, there's a confusion about faith. Many people have accepted Dawkins' definition of faith as believing where there's no evidence. That's nonsense. Faith is an ordinary word. It's not just a religious word. It's an ordinary word. It means trust. And usually, I suspect that all of you don't trust either facts or people without having evidence, or else you're a bit silly. And your bank manager.
Yeah, he's a smart guy here, John Lennox. But finishing up the thought is, Christian is very simple. God created everything. God is a person. We are made in his image. There is a purpose for creation, purpose for the heavenly realms, the earthly realms, free will, wanting to extend his family. And as well, we know that there's an accountability, and we're held accountable. We've fallen. God has been working through prophets, working through our Savior all throughout history, working out man's salvation. So if a fish or an amphibian or a coyote, if these animals are not good or evil, they have animal instincts. They're reacting through their instincts. We get hurt. Well, you know what? We don't think that animal has sinned against us. We know the difference, right? We have a clear difference between all other created beings and us. So that for the Christians, like, oh, well, we're made in the image of God. There's a God. It's quite obvious in his creation. We study this book that gives prophecies, so maybe it should be taken a little bit more serious from other spiritual texts, because things that it says comes true all the time, and it's intricately woven together. We see in retrospect, as a Christian that's gone a little further along in their path, they can go through the Old Testament. They see Jesus everywhere, all of these things. And yet, if you're an atheist or somebody who believes in the Big Bang, nothing created everything, you have basically no foundation to then say this is right or this is wrong. It's not. We're just a meaningless surprise guided by unguided purposes. And that means that where does morality come from? There needs to be a moral lawgiver. There's no accountability if we all came from slimy soup. So there's a vast problem. Yet the atheist will hang on the theists and make moral claims as if there is someone higher than themselves putting us all accountable. They'll squeeze in trying to say, well, society decides, it's not objective morality, right and wrong. Society decides that, but then we've seen horrible things happen. Imagine if it's okay, it's not evil, because all of Nazi Germany decided as a society the standard of morality, claiming that the Jews are actually filthy and it's a favor to the human race to get rid of them because they're cleaning the gene pool, kind of thing. Hey, that's moral. And hey, you can't project any moral judgment on them. They've decided that as a group, a bunch of fallen, sinful people making moral standards. And that's why it makes absolutely no sense. Of course, we know that atheists or non-believers can be moral because God has given us all a conscience. They just can't make moral claims philosophically because they start with soup. We don't start with soup. We start with, in the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. In the beginning, he created the heavens and the earth. Therefore, in the beginning, there's time. The heavens, there's the expanding universe, and the earth, there's all matter that we use now. So, at least the Christian is starting with, straight from the start, we understand who created that expanse, who created material that burst into reality and stuff like that. Anything to add? Any difference in opinion or?
No, I agree.
Okay. Off topic, just found out that the police chief in Lahania is the same one that was in charge in LV at the mass shooting. I guess they're talking about American stuff that must have happened with a shooting. Let's get back to here, finish. Now I'm curious, do you want to continue with John Lennox or go to the next one?
The next one.
Yeah, right.
Because your wife and granddaughter will be coming back soon.
I don't know. They went to a family function that I snuck out of. So I don't know when they'll be back. Probably, I don't know, at any time, but I think it'll be later than sooner.
Your show.
Hey,
Your show.
That's it.
Won't trust you with a loan unless you provide evidence of collateral. Isn't that true? We all know what evidence-based faith is, but somehow the word has been spread around by Dawkins and co. that faith is a vice because it's believing where there's no evidence. That's nonsense. That is blind faith, and it's very dangerous. It's the kind of faith that causes young men to fly planes into tall buildings. That's blind faith. Christianity is evidence-based. Listen to this. John, at the end of his gospel, he says, Jesus did many other signs in the presence of his disciples, which are not written in this book, but these are written, that you might believe that Jesus is the Messiah, the Son of God, and that believing you may have life in his name. In other words, here's the evidence on which faith is based. Now, how do you decide between religions? Well, there are several ways. Very briefly.
Really quick, before he gets into this, I think it's interesting that, because I'm putting myself in the mindset of the maybe more skeptical viewer of this video, and I know that there's going to be this complaint, well, that's John, who is in this book called the Bible, so he's biased and illegitimate for that reason. But it's interesting to note that John, when he wrote that, didn't even know that there was going to be this, canonized thing called the Bible that was going to be included with all of these other books and sort of put together in the way that it is today. He's just a real person who experienced real events in history and is proclaiming the reality of those events to the original audience. And I just think that's interesting I think sometimes we can put the cart before the horse in terms of
Yeah, I was just talking about that. If you look at, for sure, the Gospels are written because the first-hand accounts, the apostles that were doing word of mouth, were getting old, and soon there would be none of the first-hand account people, and it was important that the cores of the faith, the understanding of Jesus, be written. And some people criticize that there's slight variations. To me, it just proves that there are four different I account views. Some are said by academics to be around written sometimes around 80, 90 AD. We see that the Roman Church, within their church father writings, that the book of Romans themselves were written in the first century. So yeah, they're written as spiritual texts. They're like historical, and they make the claims of who Jesus is, and the whole word of mouth preaching that brought many to Christ. Then you'll look at the books of Romans. That's written to the church in Rome. We see at the end, it shows it's a letter. It's packed with some theology, and definitely I'm convinced that Paul, who wrote it, was under the influence of the Holy Spirit, so understood very well and was able to share that through the Holy Spirit.
Yeah,
But we
I think he wrote that in 57 AD.
quite
And
possible.
Jesus died in 33 AD.
Yeah,
So he wanted to put what he saw, what he witnessed
yeah.
on paper.
And specifically also to this church in Rome, which was probably building. And you can see that he is as well in it. It's like not just this is the Holy Scripture. He's talking about specific people. He's talking about this problem where now you have people coming from different cultures and kind of fighting over, like the Jews are like, you still need to get this done. Oh, you can't eat that. And this is causing a division. And he's trying to bring back and say, look, these are questions of conscience. This is not the priority. Focus on Christ. Focus on having Christ perfected in you. And he's talking as well to the who he calls strong in faith, that know that there are freedoms from all of these previously Levitical laws and festivals and things like that. But he's like, don't come at these new people just coming in and being legalistic, even though they're being legalistic. Give time for the Holy Spirit and focus on maintaining the community. But a lot of the other ones, you got 1 and 2 Corinthians. Well, that's about letters from Paul being sent to the church in Corinth. You have Galatians. That's a letter written to the church that's propping up in Galatia. Philippians is Philippi. The Romans is largely to the Gentiles, and I believe it's, if I'm not mistaken, Peter that writes Hebrews, and he's talking more to the Israelites. Colossians is another area. So, like they said, they weren't necessarily writing this and saying these will be used for ages on end. Maybe the Gospels
No.
purpose, but
They were documenting what they had seen and heard.
yeah. And then there's the Nag Hammadi collection, but it is clearly Gnostic. Some people want to say, like, look, they chose these, but look at the other ones. But the other ones are all over the place. They're making huge claims that are Gnostic. It's a complete anti gospel, and they were known as heretical. And there's a reason why it didn't grow up alongside the church. It completely took pretty much the resurrection away. It implied that Jesus is not it's completely a different Old Testament, wrathful, vengeful, evil God, and it's just a whole mess. So those libraries have been collected in the Nag Hammadi library. Interesting reads, but I truly believe that these Gospels were chosen for a specific reason under the guidance. And as corrupt as things become, I have faith in the Holy Spirit, that the Holy Spirit isn't impotent, and through the ages was able to work through all of these tangents that men go off, and there's always a pull. I don't feel that I'm reading a corrupted Christianity. I feel that I can see where corruption has occurred, mostly institutional. And I think that there's a very good continuity within it. But I do acknowledge that the letters were collected, and I don't think that they were writing expecting necessarily that those would become canonized and, chosen and put into this, because they're clearly letters to people, but they're packed with Christian truth. But I think that, and that's just my opinion, there you can see the culture. You can see that through the letters, Paul is reading through his Roman culture as well. I think that some things he specifies is his opinion. Over here, when we're talking about foods to be eaten and non-eating, he's kind of just like leaving it to people's conscience. He's like, look, don't focus on that. It's going to rip you guys apart. Focus on the importance, and I think he gave his opinion there. Let's just finish over here.
Quickly discrediting a eyewitness to events in history. So that being said, let's let him continue.
Just think of the three major monotheistic religions: Judaism, Christianity, and Islam. When it comes to Christ, my Jewish friends, and I have many of them, believe that Christ died and did not rise. I, as a Christian, believe he died and rose. My Muslim friends believe he didn't die. Those three things cannot be simultaneously true. And therefore, I simply invite people to investigate the evidence. And one of the most seminal experiences in my life was sitting on the ground in the bright sunshine in Trinity College, Cambridge, listening to one of the world's top lawyers, actually an expert in Islamic law, but a Christian. And he was a Queen's Counsel, amongst many other things. Sir Norman Anderson, I think his book is still obtainable. And he got up and says, I want to do a forensic investigation of the evidence for the resurrection of Jesus. And the place was absolutely packed. And I'll never forget it, because that was the beginnings of understanding that there is a rational forensic defense of this. And we have...
Out of all people in history, there's nobody who has the most historical information or evidence to rely on is Jesus. But people always put in doubt, right down to the point of, he never even existed. This is just an old religion story being repackaged and stuff like that. The Jews never denied that there was a physical Jesus that was a heretic that led the Jews astray and preached a new God. They hated him, obviously, in his writings, but the idea that no, he didn't even exist. This is ludicrous and would be laughed out. Understanding that a lot of academia, when we talk about religious studies and things like that, it's not all a bunch of Christians. There are people that specialize in this ancient Christianity and stuff like that are not even believers.
Have to make up our own minds. But there's another method of approach, and it's this. You see, of every worldview and religion, I ask several questions. And when it comes to religions, I ask, what is the shape of the religion? How is relationship with God determined? So let's just confine ourselves, for sake of illustration, to God-fearing religions, not religions that don't really believe in God and so on, but God-fearing religions like the three I've mentioned. And what I discover by constant questioning of people is that there's a general pattern, that there's some sort of initiation rite, perhaps performed on a child, perhaps performed on an adult, and the person is on the way. And the descriptor, the way, is often used. And I often draw this, and I draw a little door, you get in, and a wavy line. This is the way it goes up and down. And then there's a gate, another big door at the far end, and I draw the scales of justice there. And at the other side of that gate is nirvana, heaven, what have you, paradise. And I say, as you're on the way, you various people that teach you and help you and so on, but even they cannot guarantee your acceptance into heaven or whatever at the end. Why? Because you have to go through the final assessment, a judgment.
Yeah.
And why is that? Because the principle of the religion is merit. And so you have to hope that with all the teaching you've got and all the experience, that your good deeds will outweigh your bad deeds.
So this is salvation through works, where for Christianity, right, it's not salvation through works. It's salvation through the one work of the righteous one, Christ Jesus. That's when we're in front of the judge, that the penalty of sin is death. So these people, they're going to go before the judge, and they will basically perish. They call it the second death. But if you are a reborn Christian, what kind of deeds will you do? Well, a natural outpouring of the Holy Spirit should be fruitful deeds. So Christianity just claims you're not saved by those deeds. You're saved by the law that you broke. And every single deed done by a Christian as well will pass through the flame of judgment, and they could lose a lot of their works that they thought were good. That's what differentiates Christianity from all other religions. The Muslim doesn't know if they're going to make it. They just keep on following Muhammad's laws of how to pray, what to do, all these outward things. The Jews now, since 70 AD, they have no temple. Therefore, they cannot atone for their sacrifices. I've spoken to many people who live in Israel and stuff like that, and it's not the biblical Judaism that they had, prior to 70 AD. This is basically rabbinical Judaism. They read way more the rabbinical writings. It's based on, if you make a mistake, apologize and try and do as many good deeds as possible. So Judaism is nowhere, nor can they follow it, because if you reject the fulfillment of the promises, so the Jews had promises, they were supposed to take those promises of the coming Messiah by faith. Now they rejected the last revelation of the Son of God, and therefore not only that, for since 70 AD they have, by rejecting Christ, now hey, you want to reject Christ, you have to fulfill the law perfectly. Well, they can't even fulfill it at all because they have no temple. So it's something to keep in mind as well.
Then you'd be accepted.
They're building a
And I
temple.
find that
What's that?
Aren't they building a temple?
Well, they're trying. They have all the instrumentation, like the golden menorah. They have all of the stuff, but the Dome of the Rock is built on the foundation of where the temple was. So I think that they do not want to build a temple that is not in the place that God said it should be. So something's going to happen where it's going to be successful. This might be accomplished by the Antichrist. So there'll be a lot of fighting, peace, the birth pains of the end of the age are already there. Things are not going well, and people are going to look for a leader that promises peace. The same thing, right? Create a crisis, and then after use the propaganda and control the minds of the people, and then bring around a change that you would have probably never accepted. Usually it's less and less rights, but it's going to be some form of manipulation. The Antichrist definitely wants it built. So whether it's going to be built right beside the Dome of the Rock, whether it's through the ecumenical movement where the Vatican is focusing on the Jews and Islam to form, more ecumenical, joining together, even though Judaism not Judaism, the way it's practiced now isn't compatible with its own Torah. And you have the Muslims that have some third covenant in a way that was never prophesied, and all of their religion is to negate all the Christian claims right down to the resurrection, where we say, well, in the Bible, the apostle says, if there's no physical resurrection, then like this is completely useful. It's useless. It's stupid. We should be pitied. We're a joke. So everything's written as a response to Christianity as well as the Jews. But everything, if a Muslim says, yeah, I believe in Jesus as well, it's not the same Jesus. And in fact, Jesus that comes in his second coming as King of Kings, the Quran says there's nothing more despicable and despised than the one that will come in the name of Kings, because only God is King of Kings and stuff like that. The Dome of the Rock says God has no son. That's a deliberate response to Jesus making the claim of being the Son of God. So yeah, I've written a kind video saying I'm not talking about seeding discord between Christian people in my community. There's a lot of Islamic and Muslims and stuff like that. That's, we're not to create war and dissension with them, but I've acknowledged it's completely incompatible. I mean, to the point where this is Islam. Muhammad wrote that in 560 AD about. That's half a millennia making claims about Jesus not being crucified when the Jews don't even deny that. Muhammad having seizures and thinking that he had that there was a demonic experience, and his wife says no, actually it's an angelic, and receiving a new revelation that's written in the Quran by Muhammad, and it said very clearly, no.
I think he was a cult leader.
Yeah, well, he was. In my opinion, it is completely a false religion. It says it's Abrahamic, but they don't read the Proverbs. They don't read the Psalms. They say that they are the descendants of Isaac, not the descendants of Ishmael, when clearly Isaac is the line through which Messiah came, which is Jewish. So yeah, it's a real mess. And it is literally, in my opinion, like, oh, well, you just did it on purpose. In Revelation, our Antichrist is your savior. It's like, seriously, and then you have to try and say that we're brothers in religion. No, that doesn't work at all. No.
By and large, most people say that's exactly what we believe. And I say, it's exactly not what I believe. And they say, of course you do. You're a Christian. You believe, as well as I do, that good works are important. Yes, I say, I believe they're important, but they're not the basis of acceptance. And they say, but how can that possibly be? Well, I say, you think of that wavy line, and you're on that wavy line, and you cannot, by definition, be sure of acceptance. It's like Birmingham University. You get in, you do your A-levels, wonderful, you're in, and then there are nice professors like me teaching you, but I can't guarantee you get a degree. Why? Because you have to get through finals. That's the day of judgment, folks, isn't it? And many of you remember it. And that is what the vast majority of people...
What's that?
I love this guy.
Yeah, no, he's really good.
...think a religion is. And then I drop a little bomb.
I mean, it's simple. It's like we've created the justice system, and we only go before the court when we've broken the rules.
Yeah.
So bring to court, okay, all the rules that you have not broken. And what does the court care about that? On that day, they're focusing on the breaking of the law. And we have all broken the law. And the wages of breaking that law is expulsion from the eternal kingdom. You suffer the second death, and you're as well judged for everything you do, the deeds that you've done and stuff like that. That's also scrutinized. That's part of the penalty, but you are not judged. There's no scale weighing if you did more good than bad, you get in and stuff like that. the only way for Muslims to make sure they get into paradise is to martyr themselves, to die. You know, that's why you have a lot of bombings and stuff like that. They think that it's if you die for Allah and stuff like that, that's a sure thing. So that encourages a lot of them to do these sorts of things, because it's the only guarantee. Every other Muslim is just hoping that he's done more good than bad, and doing these outward ceremonial prayers that are repetitive. But you can tell that they that veil, they don't have that Holy Spirit that gives them certainty. So yeah, everybody is judged, and Christians alike are guilty, except that Jesus pays the penalty, which is that second death.
Into their minds. And I say, but that isn't Christianity, folks. In religion, acceptance comes at the end on the basis of an assessment of merit. Well, if that's religion, Christianity is not a religion. It's a relationship. And acceptance comes at the beginning. That's radical. And you know, I believe in our country, and in my original country, many people have rejected Christianity. Why? Because they've never understood this. They don't realize that Christianity is not a merit-based religion, because Christ came into our world and he told us that if we listened to him and accepted his word and believed on him as the Savior, the Son of God, we would have in that moment eternal life and we would not come into judgment. That's utterly radical. So the acceptance comes at the beginning. And so, ladies and gentlemen, I don't give lectures like this and discussions like this to earn God's forgiveness. I do them because I've got it. That's radical. And you all understand that. Let me ram this in with a little illustration. Can I do that? Only take a minute.
And then
Wait, this is it then.
yeah.
You've heard about my wife. Well, over 50 years ago, I saw this vision in Cambridge. So I decided I'd like to marry her. So I came to her one day and I had a little present wrapped up for her. It was a cookbook. So I said, I'd like to marry you, Sally. Now, the condition will be this. Let's look at page 147. It's apple cake. And here are the laws for making apple cake. Thou shalt take so much flour, thou shalt take so much sugar, and there you are. Now, here's the way it's going to be. If you keep these laws for the next 40 years, I'll think about accepting you. If you don't, you can go back to your mother. But look, why are you laughing? That is what many of you sitting here think about God. And you would never insult a fellow human being by basing a relationship on merit. You wouldn't.
Well,
And so my marriage, it's been good. Why? Because my wife is not cooking in order to gain my acceptance. She likes cooking because she's got it. And the wonderful thing about Christianity is precisely that. It's not religion in that sense. It's a relationship.
It's that sense of acknowledgement of our need for God, of our own moral depravity, of the fact that we are not holy in and of ourselves as he is. He is perfect and perfectly holy, and he wants to have relationship with us. How do you square that circle? How can God relate to and unite himself to a species that is unsuitable for him based on the way that we have exercised our own free will and fallen, and the way that collectively and individualistically, every single person has fallen short of the glory of God, and yet God still wants us. The scriptures are riddled with this. While we were sinners, Christ died for us. We were his enemies, and he came for us. That we were orphans, that he adopted, etc., etc. He made him who knew no sin to be sin for us, that we might become the righteousness of God in Christ Jesus our Lord. It is literally littered throughout the entire New Testament. This idea that we have radically fallen short, that we're desperately in need. At the same time, we're desperately, deeply loved by God in spite of that, in spite of the fact that we're rebelling against him constantly, and that he's made a way, that his, like he said, it's not merit-based, because if it were, no one would ever be with God. We cannot reach to the heights of what is necessary to become suitable creatures for him. Only through that beautiful atonement that took place on the cross, only through God himself heroically living the life that we couldn't live, dying the death that we deserved to die, absorbing the wrath that was towards our sin, and then conquering death and rising again. Only Only if that is true is there hope for humanity. There is no other possible system or worldview or ideology or way that can square the circle of the fundamental problem of the holiness of God and the depravity of man. It is only on that old rugged cross that the solution has been offered that is actually legitimate. No other claimant in religion, in any other religion, whether it's Buddha, Muhammad, etc., no one else is offering us the solution to the problem that we have. No one else has actually even claimed to do this thing that Jesus has claimed to do.
Yeah, because it's about works, right? And when you make a mistake through your own conscience, then you apologize and then everything's okay. It's just that I know that when I became Christian, that the Holy Spirit working through my conscience, the amount of dirt that has been revealed within me is a lot more than my conscience was able to show initially. So, meaning that when we attain the Holy Spirit, we actually also have a sober view of the difference between God's perfection, how he views our actions and our sin and us. I think that prior to that, some people think, I'm not that bad. I do a lot of good things. And if I went through a work-based salvation, well, I know when the Holy Spirit shined its light on me within that day or two, or during those 3 days, he was revealing to me all of my actions were done with intentions that had nothing to do with God in them. I boasted about the good things I did. I slandered and complained about other people. The work that I did, I wanted to be acknowledged for. And it was a scary thing to arrive and say to myself, if I die this very day, thank goodness I'm saved now, but I would show up and I would be the least in the kingdom. I had almost no works to present that would not look like filthy rags before God. That was a scary thing. And I think a lot of people that are unsaved, that are not getting this gradual, more kind revelation with the helper, the Holy Spirit showing a little bit, and we're trying to walk, as infants in Christ and to be mature. This is a process, like I said, a relationship that has commenced at the start, not all throughout your life, and then attaining that relationship. The relationship is already from the start, and I think that's quite unique. Any thoughts?
No.
And then I love at the beginning of this when Lennox says it is a matter of fact. It is a matter of, it is evidence-based. I love that he goes there because that's exactly what the ancient church believed. Paul says that if Jesus didn't rise from the dead, then we're the most pitied of all because we've placed our hope in an illusion. But
that's exactly what Islam states about everything. Everything that Paul right here, or that he's saying, what Christianity resides on, like that if it doesn't have, it's stupid. It's not real. Islam is a response video. It's a response religion to a lot of claims, and these claims destroy Christianity completely.
Here's the good news today, folks. He did rise from the dead, and there is evidence of this in history, and there's the type of truth that rings out with beauty as well. And it's filled with goodness as well. It's that Hebrew idea of shalom, where those three pieces are united together: goodness, truth, and beauty. Now, I listened to a debate with this guy named Matt Dillahunty, I believe is how you pronounce his last name. And he said there is no evidence. There's just claims, but there's no evidence. And I realized through listening through that debate that what he means by evidence is specifically scientific evidence. He wants the type of evidence that you can put under a microscope and say, that's evidence. But that's not the kind of evidence that exists in history. History is a different category of evidence. And the writing of the New Testament is historic in nature. And it is filled with the exact type of evidence that exists all throughout history. So in other words, if you don't accept Jesus, you are literally throwing out Tiberius Caesar, and really you're throwing out Alexander the Great. You're throwing out like literally all of ancient history. You're throwing out and you're saying, we can't know anything. It's all mythology. And you're kind of...
Yeah, you notice they do that only with the historical documentations about Jesus, but they're completely fine with a few scraps of stuff to say, oh yeah, he was historical.
Putting your head under a rock in that context. But if you don't preclude the supernatural possibility that pierced into history in the event of the resurrection, if you don't preclude and say that definitely didn't happen because I don't believe in supernatural explanations to historical events, if you don't start with that premise, and if you just look at it on its own face value and try to solve this historic riddle of that Christ was dead at point A, and we know that we know he was alive at point A, we know he was dead at point B, we know he was alive again at point C based on countless eyewitnesses, based on transformed lives, based on Paul attesting to it, James, the brother of Jesus, attesting to it. In other words, there's really, really significant historic reasons to.
And there's extra biblical, like Josephus Flavius. There's Eusebius. There's Maimonides, which is huge writer. He's a rabbi, so he's huge in rabbinical writings and stuff like that. For me personally as well, the Shroud of Turin, until science says, oh yeah, look, we know how to make it. I don't see the possibility. I think it's quite logical that if DNA has biophoton emissions, like DNA itself emits light, that there's something with DNA that is probably beyond just a blueprint. And I'm sure that's where the origin of this intense, not heat, but light made that image during the resurrection as well. So for me, I remember, and I find it weird that a lot of Christians don't use this. It's not like I'm worshiping a idol or anything, but it made me scratch my head big time. It kind of gave a historical, hey, this guy was real. And like you said, some stupid carbon dating that was taken from a edge of a cloth that is not even weaved the same way as the original. Again, that people are still quoting that, and that's been refuted. And you can tell how like everything works against, oh, that would give validity to Jesus. Let's make sure that doesn't get like on the headlines.
To believe that it did happen if you don't preclude the supernatural element. So all that being said, I love what Lennox is talking about here when it comes to the fact that Christianity is a matter of fact, and that is so important. It's not blind faith. Number two, I love the fact that he really highlights the single most distinctive factor between Christianity and everything else that's on the table, which is that it is not merit-based. Actually, it is merit-based. I'll do a little play on words here. It is merit-based on the work of Jesus. And the offer that God has extended to humanity through the cross of Christ is an offer made available to everyone, regardless of what you've done bad. That's the big enchilada, is it's not by works of righteousness that we have done, but according to his mercy that he saved us. So the call to action that I have to do at a video like this is look to Jesus and accept it. Literally accept the gift of salvation that he's made available to you. Get yourself plugged into a local church, find some real Christians, and to tell them there's something inside of me that longs for union with God. There's this heavenly longing. I believe, like, we all sense at a deep level that we somehow belong to another world. Like, we have longings, we see beauty, and we desire something more than it seems that this world can offer. That is the God-shaped hole that the philosophers have talked about for centuries. And there is a way that we can be with him forever. There is a way. He has made a way. His name is Jesus, and he's done it. And he offers it to us. And so with all that being said, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I think that's probably one of the most beautiful.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah.
And like the deeper I go in, for studies and stuff like that, it's like, oh, okay, I know the New Testament extremely well. Fine. Now I go and I start studying typologies, and then I'm seeing that there are foreshadows within patriarch, the lives of the patriarchs. We see Jesus being referred to as a second Adam. We can go do a study of the first Adam. We can see all these parallels. Then after, we can see Isaac, the sacrifice of Isaac and Abraham, how it's a story of faith, how it's a foreshadowing of Christ Jesus carrying his wood, and God telling Abraham, trying to let us know in retrospect, look, this is a foreshadowing of salvation. I wouldn't ask you to sacrifice your son. I will provide a sacrifice. We see a ram with horns, represents strength, kingship, leadership. And on top of that, in Isaac's story with Abraham of the sacrifice of Isaac, we see this ram stuck in the thickets. This is where God says, I will provide the sacrifice. And this is a very weird story that doesn't really make much sense, or we're not sure why. To a certain extent, they understand that prior to God asking Abraham to do this suddenly, he had already made promises that through Isaac there'd be descendants and a great nation as numerable as the stars or the sands of the sea. So he has a promise made. He has faith in that promise, and then he turns around and says, "Now go kill him." And we see this in the New Testament. Says that Abraham figured in his head that I have faith in the promise that through Isaac there'll be descendants. He's asking me to sacrifice him. Surely he can bring him back from the dead. Why does he say that? Again, it is a painting and a foreshadowing, which Christians call typology. We can go through Jacob's whole story. We can go through the tabernacle and the temple, how it all represents the gospel. So now you read the gospel, perhaps. You had the sinner's prayer. You acknowledged your sin. You're getting the Holy Spirit. You have that testimony, a relationship starting with God. You're reading the book. More and more is being revealed. Things are making sense. You're assembling with other Christians, possibly further along the way. These are Christians that you use discernment. Christians, there's some pastors on here that I watch, and I already know the gospel pretty darn well, so I'll see what they say, and then I'll go do my investigation. But I learned tremendously. We had just spoken about Royston Bethel Church, this study on Revelation. Chuck Missler, Mike Winger, amazing sites that a babe in Christ, a new Christian, can also listen to these people, and they don't have to wait for every Sunday with one pastor that's in one village. Christians are really sharpening their sword, and we see falling away of a lot of the institutionalized building churches and stuff like that. And we see that there's more fellowshipping outside of these buildings, or more online information, where I can gain from Michael Heiser within 6 hours his whole academic career and all his studies and publications and stuff. So in the end, it says knowledge will increase, and we see that, even among Christians as well. Anything to add there?
No.
Okay. Anybody else is welcome to come online as well. Somebody who may have questions, Christians or people interested in Christianity, biblical Christianity. Not going off topic from there. You're welcome to come on. Let's get into some funky monkey business. Let's get into that article that you sent me that I didn't look. I wanted to look online. Before, is there anything you have to say before we start? Aliens attack village in Peru.
Yeah, the government says that it's minors. The villagers say, no, these are real demons, aliens. It's weird.
Oh yeah, Timothy Alberino. I know. Is this the exact one that you sent me? Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, he's another guy that's pretty good. I'm overjoyed that a lot of Christians, and it's funny because a lot of the stuff is seal up the book until the end
I have
for a later generation.
When I was a kid growing up, a lot of times I was told, just because you think you can do it, should you? Because if you do, there's repercussions. And the governments and scientists, all these elites, they don't think about the repercussions. They just do because they want to grow powerful and rich. And that really bugs me.
No, that's it. I 100% follow and agree with, let's say, Bruce C's All channel, all the stuff that he's captured with his telescope, high quality, like $20-some thousand telescope, I think. But he's seeing a lot of activity on the moon. He's seeing a lot of lights and orbs. I'm not sure if he's found a solid aerial phenomenon, but there's a lot of buildings.
Well,
There's a lot of angles, that he's able to catch.
when they say that they're going to the moon to mine, they're already there doing it.
Yeah, there's definitely activity there. I think that that everything is fallen angel in my book, fallen angel activity. So I can completely align all the updates, all the images and stuff like that we're seeing. And I know that fallen angels have the ability to enter our realm. So they're in a heavenly dimension. They're manifesting here. They have spirit beings that manifest here. Angels are able, they show up like men, they look like men, but they're able to do vastly more powerful things than
Well,
just a typical.
it's like a chess game where they're 5 or 10 moves ahead of you.
Yeah,
They
and they
know
were
exactly
there.
what move. They know exactly what move you're going to do. Like we're supposed to have free will, but we're kind of maneuvered into these moves.
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
they're definite. Yeah, for sure. They were there at the start of creation. They were singing for joy. So the DNA manipulation that I feel strongly occurred beginning in Genesis 6, and I think that the first book of Enoch goes into a tremendous amount of detail. For reasons that I'm not going to get into, it wasn't decided to be canonized, but it was canonized in the Ethiopian Bible. It's still there. And nobody says that the first book of Enoch is at least heretical. It's used in academia. Now it's being used in Christians because Genesis 6 is very vague, but it clearly says that the sons of God, B'nai Ha Elohim, these are sons of God. Nowhere else are humans ever referred to as sons of God until after Jesus, where Christians start being referred to as children of God, sons and daughters. But prior to that, there is sons of gods. They're always angels. Angels have the ability in the Old Testament to descend in physical form to accomplish things. And these fallen angels also have free will, just like Satan was a cherub, a different form of angelic being that rebelled, that dragged, a rebellion that caused the fall to happen and stuff like that. This you look into the antiquities, all of the people that kind of follow more an alien galactic brotherhood kind of thing, talking about, look at all of this technology that was supposed to not exist. And I'm like, I'm right there with you guys. It's just they're not aliens. And it resembles the first book of Enoch. Doesn't go into all details, but there was a lot of stuff being taught to humans, and everything that was being taught by the angels to the humans in one way or one form corrupted them. And I believe that the whatever entities, the higher up, and I believe that they've probably been in communication with them for quite some time. I think that they think that these are extraterrestrial. I think that they even acknowledge that they're in other dimensions even. But as Christians, this fits in the canon. It fits in our worldview. That no, what you're seeing, we're agreeing with the phenomena. We're just not agreeing with the origins. Darla says, when they speak of alien invasion, what would be the reason for it? All right. So me personally, I've always wondered. Go ahead. I'll let you say what you think first.
Control over the population of the world. You're in fear. You don't know. The Bible says that you're working in the field. You're two working in the field, and one will be taken.
Yeah,
They do that already. They do that already. Look at the hunters and tourists climbing mountains, out hiking, whatever, disappearing. Yeah. It's happening already.
And the Old Testament, the seventh from Adam, Enoch, was raptured. There is one of the apostles. There's a guy that he met, was reading Isaiah, and he started explaining Isaiah to him. And then after he became a believer, he was so excited, the guy on the wagon, that he wanted to get baptized. He's like, well, here's some water. Let's do this, And after the apostle baptized, he was harpazo. That's the word in Greek for rapture. He was raptured away from that location and put in another location. And I think that demonic, meaning fallen angels that are now demonic, they're against God, they're fallen. They have they have spiritual powers and abilities. It says that once the church is taken away, it's called the completion of the Gentiles. I think that this is the perfect time, shortly after, for the fallen angels to make their appearance, or else it's too weird. Like the world will question, why did the Christians disappear? Not all of them. There's plenty of them still here. They're not the real Christians. They're imposters, or they're deceived. They've never followed. They've never read. Here they're stuck there. But probably a small amount will be raptured from within our population, and that's going to have to be explained. And when I look at alien disclosure, there's a disclosure that's that I think is being disclosed, but it's again just part of making them believe that these are going to be aliens. And when they finally do arrive, there'll be the promises that are made by God. You want to be immortal? Do you want to live eternally? Well, here's upgrades. So the fallen angels will corrupt the image of God as well. People, we have a spirit already that is upon us, a spirit that makes us mutilate our bodies, to make us deny the image of God. That's the first thing that needs to go, so that we believe that we came from sludge and soup, that there's no God. Therefore, it's morally right to upgrade ourselves, to integrate machinery into us. To perhaps they'll make the claim that we can attain immortality through that will be omniscient, because now we have AI within our brain, because we have to fuse with AI, or else AI will overpower us. It talks about an image of the beast that is made to speak. So that's not there's an image of the beast that is not alive. It's not human, but it is given powers to speak. And that seems like AI. And now these are all guesses, but what I'm saying is it still fits into the Word of God. This criticism that, well, you know what, if aliens arrive, what is that going to do to Christian faith? There are people that don't believe that these are angels, and they say they're malevolent. It seems like they're obsessed. When we look at encounters, people that have been abducted and stuff like that, none of them are saying that this is pleasant. They're talking. It seems like what I think the Nephilim, the angel human hybrids, the third generation, I don't think they're coming as giants. I think that was back in the day, just having sex with the women. It caused men of great stature.
I think the bloodline has carried through to modern day.
Possibly. Yeah, there's something about a bloodline too that's carried through there. So we can see that there's a lot of information out there. Go ahead.
Also, I had read this ancestry.com where you send in your DNA. That goes to the government. Why do they want that?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Why? So here, Darla had said, did I answer that? Did we answer that? When they speak of alien invasion, what would be the reason for it? Yeah, it's like we just said, the demonic seek to be in the place of God. So God is saying, look, I am worthy of worship. You guys are made to worship me. This is the family relationship. The Son, the only begotten Son, is constantly in subjection to the Father, the good Son, Jesus Christ, doing the will of the Father sharing things with the Son. We will be like Jesus, the Son of God. We will be eternally children of God. These people know that their time is limited. God is using evil, right? The present evil, but he's going to use it always to his benefit. Not that doing more evil is a great thing. But yeah, these people will make an appearance. So this disclosure stuff, I think that it's controlled opposition. I think that it's just further programming, and the disclosure is to keep us.
That Gresh guy, he never saw anything with his own eyes. He went on what people had seen.
Okay.
Or
In this video?
No. I'm talking about the disclosure one in
Okay.
Congress.
Yeah, because it's undeniable. There are things that are being captured, and there might as well be technology that is being given. So maybe some of these tic tac things that we're seeing are possibly human reverse engineered things. I don't see why they
They've
can't
been
have.
working on that since 1939 in Nazi Germany. So they
Yeah.
just evolved. They tweaked it, and there we are today.
Yeah. Here, Darla, is giving various examples of what people, what she hears people saying. Some say the aliens are us from the future, changing the outcome of the nuclear bomb. Yeah, there's Prometheus, the movie, that follows basically the line that Dawkins, the atheist, would be fine with, is that they seeded us here. I believe that theory doesn't claim necessarily that they created life or that they took life that was already here. I don't know how far they take it. But if they claim that they'll come at a time where there's tons of civil unrest, there's environmental issues. People are divided into tribalism. We see this already being engineered and stuff like that. Nobody is holding on to a single truth that the West was founded on, which was Christ, and science was founded on Christianity. So now everybody has their own idea, and that's what I was saying. The spirit of Adam is blind; it's doubtful. It is searching. Our spirit of Adam that's fallen, we all have that, and it's all unique and special. But our spirit can combine with other things. We can combine with the Holy Spirit. Then we have the testament of the Father and the Son. The Bible opens up. We have relationship. We have experiences that make it an evidence based just from the Holy Spirit in our life. And then after, we can join with the spirits of the Nephilim, playing with the occult, or opening ourselves up by continually sinning and breaking that protective barrier in a way that we have. We can see that when someone's conscience just deteriorates, where they don't even have that light that God gives compass.
I think too, some people are pushing the agenda. That they want all this to happen.
Yeah. I sometimes I even wonder, like are there two kind of humans or something? Are there the ones that are the seed of God that's sprinkled, kind of that parable where he said, the master sprinkled seeds, meaning people, and then the enemy came and sprinkled seeds, and then the harvester says, "Do you want us to rip out the bad weeds, the bad seeds?" And he says, "No. If you start doing that, it's too early. Harvest time is not ready. You're going to ruin as well trying to do that. The good seed, let them grow side by side. And then when the harvest time comes, the end of the age, then it'll be very easy for the harvesters to come, the angels that harvest the rapture, let's say, to distinguish between it. Because a lot of people say, well, people have good in them. I don't know. Like, I'm wondering, are there some that are destined to destruction? That brings up a difficult doctrine of predestination or the elect.
I think all babies are born innocent and pure.
Of course,
but it's their upbringing. It's the parents. If the parents are out just for profit and power, then
Yeah.
the child is going to grow up like that. But the good
I
news
see that. I
is,
see that too. Like for sure, we look at the youth, how we don't have rules. Look at how they've decayed, and it's prophesied how ungodly and disobedient the children will be in the end times. So yeah, 100% children are born innocent. I think children, it's not clearly stated, but children who die before the age of reason. I think God also takes into consideration a lot of things. Are innocent, they go straight to paradise. There, it doesn't specifically say that, but let the children come to me. To enter the kingdom, you have to be as a child. You have to have that state of mind. But we do see, by the time they're 3, there's that me starting to develop. They were too young to even be aware of their own self-awareness, but as things
yeah,
happen,
because both parents
then
are
they,
working, they come home, they're exhausted. The kid wants attention. Well, here's some money, go to the arcade, do
yeah,
whatever.
complete
And then,
destruction.
yeah,
Yeah, it's a
I don't
complete
know.
destruction of the family. Look at this, like we're being raised now. The children are being raised by activists. You don't know what that guy or girl that's babysitting you guys, and it's government funded, what they're saying to your children. It's completely different. It seems like they're teaching them some very, let's say, dangerous ideologies that are being affirmed and paraded and with pride. So we are thank goodness Michelle doesn't work, and we have a granddaughter. She's not going to these daycares. She's being raised old school. Um, I am I am putting Jesus in her brain. She already knows what the Bible. She'll go get it. Keep on saying, yeah, Jesus lives in the, there's your sky daddy kind of thing. Jesus is in the clouds. He's coming. I'm If kids can believe Easter bunnies poop chocolate, and there's no benefit to them being convinced of these things, or that Santa Claus goes around in less than in 24 hours down chimneys and things like that. I think that child's ground, like the parable of sowing seeds, and it's falling on all these different grounds, some that wither because of weeds, some that are like dry because of the sun.
At Christmas time, we had a debate. My granddaughter said that they didn't believe in Santa Claus anymore. So then I told, well, there used to be a long, long time
Saint Nick.
ago. I said, but we carried it on, and yeah,
Yeah,
all these stories, because we would
that's
like
it. Yeah, there is. Like there was a Saint Nick, and he, but now, like as like we'll still hear. Well, I guess they say Santa Claus is Saint Nick, but I'm all I'm saying is, like, if a child can be convinced of that, then put the seed of the gospel right away as soon as possible. I think that in our home right now, we're also being Christ-like, yeah, the Bible, as age appropriate. She's going to be raised with that, and hopefully she'll see that in the example that me and Michelle present Noah to. He's slowly coming around and doing his own reading. He has 2 friends. He has one friend, Logan, that came on screen once. Logan, that's not my doing. He was already reading the Bible. So it's funny. We got a couple of young people that I want to get together, and we can read together. And they're watching a bit. I don't know how much they're watching, but I did let them know about the Daily Bread and stuff like that, so that they get a little bit of the context that I learned from. And there's nothing wrong with one Christian, teaching a little bit of what they learned to the next Christian, and that's what the assembly is for. What does Darla? Darla has something else. They say the aliens are us from the future. I mean, I don't believe that, but it's a theory. Like I have to acknowledge that I am starting with assumptions, presuppositions. I'm taking the lens of the Bible, and I'm painting, or I'm gazing through all of this stuff that other people are using, a non-Christian lens, a non-biblical lens, a non-theistic lens, and that's fine,
The military and the deep state play around with frequencies, and I just want to add, they can make you see things that are not there.
Yeah.
They can get in your head, that I know personally. They can use holograms, sound waves.
Yeah. Yeah, isn't there a Project Bluebeam? We could get into some of those, researching some of that they've done a lot of practice on that. There's one that they projected in the clouds, a literal city in China. Might try and find that. And it looks real. So they could blue beam the second coming. They could blue beam an alien arrival and use that as a reason to take away everyone's right. Kind of like Ronald Reagan said, imagine if a force from outside this universe came, how quickly we would all, become united. So again, this, uniting us under an outside danger. And that's what they're trying to do, right? Already, just with the small crises that they're using.
Also, with the American Air Force on radar, they can make you believe, and this is, I saw it, they can make you believe that a fleet of bombers are coming to attack you.
They can
It's
do
on
everything.
radar. You actually see it on radar, but there's only one plane.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, no, that's it. Like these people that said, oh, people are, and maybe it looks like I'm a pacifist, but oh, people are waking up, people are starting to realize, and they're sending me all this links, and I'm like, yeah, I know, but I have faith in and trust, proven trust, in my opinion, to this end time timeline. I see all of these prophecies that are coming true. I see the technology that is there to accomplish. No one can buy or sell without the mark. That's digital, right? Like, how do they know? That's not a stamp, on my forehead. That's not a star on, during the Holocaust. This is surveillance. This is technology. And you see Noah Harari from the World Economic Forum, kind of the mouthpiece, the prophet of this new world order, historian, talking about, yes, like now, we have the capacity to know you more than you know yourself, and the AI and the computations, and just Google, just simply looking at the algorithm of Google, they can tell if there's like a flu going around or something, because people, let's say, get the gastro, they'll start looking up gastro remedies or symptoms, and it can pick up on little areas where there's more Google and go, there's something going on there. I mean, that's just with Google search. Darla's asking, why control us? They are smarter than us. Exactly.
Because they want the finances. They want the financial stuff.
Yeah, well, they want worship too. They want control of us. If we're talking about fallen angels, they rebelled, and they want to be in a position as to be worshipped. And I can see that it doesn't work. They can't come during antiquity where, everybody would have saw them as gods. Now people are, Satan's worked at making, secularism more and more predominant, working through people, through their spirit, and totally corrupting the academic institutions, denying everything that possible from God, to the point
And
that
not to
nothing.
forget, 5 families in the whole world own all the media. That's newspapers, magazines, TV channels, radio channels.
Yeah, it's a handful.
I woke up to that when it was the beginning of the pandemic, and I'm flipping through the channels, and each anchor was saying word by word the other guy was just saying.
I've showed that. Somebody had made a compilation.
There's the same papers and they're different channels. What the heck is
There's like
going
20,
on?
20 of them, and they press play and they align them all up at the same time. And this is a danger to our democracy. Everyone finishes. You can tell there's no freedom of press. They're just propaganda machines,
Yeah.
But they want to control us. because now the fallen angels know that in a way their time is short. They will create Nephilim. They will try and corrupt the image of God. Nephilim do not have to necessarily be giants. Nephilim is when we mix angelic substances with human, the seed of angels mixing with the seed of men. They produced men of great stature previously. I think now they're trying, these are the abductions, and these are all these abduction where you hear them speaking about, oh, well, it's reproduction. And they showed me that this is my daughter. And it seems like, I think they're doing the opposite. They're trying to mingle their demonic seed with man so that they look exactly like us. They're not trying to make themselves look different. They're trying to make themselves look as much as us. And then they could push the lie about aliens are just us in the future, and stuff like that. But why control us? That's what they want to do. They want to take away the image of God. They want to create us in their image. They know that the technology that they are going to bring us, that's already, we see Neuralink and things like that. We are being programmed and ready so that we will literally be like waiting in line to get these upgrades. They're going to make promises that the Christians are no longer here. They have been beamed up to the ship so that they understand the truth. They're in a rehabilitation program kind of thing. People will be like, yeah, that makes sense. But I mean, there's some wacky stuff that happens in Revelation. Pretty much the gates of hell are opened, and there are spirit beings that look quite odd. They have hair of a woman, faces of humans, fangs of lions, like all over the place. They have a serpent tail, and a lot of it looks like true hell on earth. John is expressing stuff to me, sounds like him being told to write stuff down, and to him he can't comprehend cities dissolving and people melting like wax. And I think that the nuclear is coming, but I think that's going to happen after the rapture. But like I said, there are tribulation saints. There are nations within the nations that will come to Christ during the tribulation. Unfortunately, they come to Christ through the tribulation, and that they go through the wrath of God as well, and Antichrist. They're going to be martyred. But yeah, there's definitely two groups. It seems like the church is going to come down on earth. Jesus will reign for 1,000 years, a whole millennial kingdom on earth physically. And it talks about the believers, the bride of Christ, the body of Christ, that will as well be priests and also part of the kingship. I think that the nations will be as vast as the nations are now, ruled for 1,000 years under a righteous king. I think that a lot of the curse, will already start to be dissolved. It says that people that die at 100 years old will be considered people that died in as kids. Now, do they die and that's it? And then after they are resurrected into the new kingdom, the new heaven, new earth, that's up. That's not like the gospel here. That's just up to Christians trying to look, through a glass darkly at what could be happening. There's nothing wrong with that. But there's definitely, I'm not sure if those that come out of the tribulation will have the uncorruptible bodies yet. But either way, Satan will be loosed after another 1,000 years. So after this whole thing with Jesus returning and the millennial kingdom, the body of Christ, the Christians, will also be priests and kings throughout these nations. And these nations are tested one more time, which gives me the impression that the Church of Christ has these immortalized bodies, and maybe not the tribulation saints yet. That's my guess. That's not definitely that's my interpretation and opinion right there. But there is a new heaven and a new earth after that millennial kingdom. New heaven, new earth, and we don't know what that means. That's the eternal state. So even within the Jesus coming back here on earth, there's still something newer after that seventh age of man, the Sabbath millennial kingdom. Do you want to start
Okay.
checking this out as
Okay.
well? So we're checking out what Margaret sent me, and we're gonna respond just say stop. Oh, it's an hour and 48 minutes.
Really?
Is there a shorter one?
Is that with the guy with his face peeled?
Did I share this yet? No, I didn't. Let me check over here. I'll share you this. Was the one that you sent me shorter?
I don't know.
This
It
was-
just freaked me out that
Let me check. I'm gonna check. I'm gonna play it for now there.
I'm just going to turn it right over to Tim, and we're going to talk about a alien threat or an attack by gray aliens that's happening in Peru. We got some information on it. We're going to cover it, kind of walk our way through this, so bear with us. Tim, you want to describe what it is that we're going to be going over?
Yeah, as you said, you and I were just having a casual conversation about the events that have been transpiring in Peru over the last couple of weeks. And we decided, let's turn on the cameras and record this conversation, because this is, I think it's quite compelling, actually. I'm not 100% sure what to make of it yet, but it is very compelling for several reasons. And I can set the stage here, and then I know you want to show some videos that we were discussing, but to set the stage, something very strange is happening in the Peruvian Amazon, specifically in the village of San Antonio, which is in the Amazon jungle. It's in the district of Alto Nanay, northwest of the city of Iquitos. That's a serious jungle. How do I know that serious jungle? Because I have spent a lot of time precisely in that region of the jungle. These are members of the Iquitu tribe, Iquitu, I-K-I-T-U, Iquitu tribe. And there aren't many members, only a couple of thousand members of this tribe, and this is part of their territory there in the Alto Nanay. They have a village, and this village has been, apparently, according to these villagers, has been attacked repeatedly over the span of a couple of weeks at least. So this incident has been ongoing. I think the news is just now breaking about it. And by the way, what we're about to talk about is all over the Peruvian news, all over mainstream Peruvian news. I've been watching mainstream Peruvian news for the last 2 days, and they're covering it in a very interesting manner. They're covering it in a serious way. And I would even use the word grave. I mean, they're very, almost as if they're frightened by what they're talking about. So it's the Peruvian news is not joking about this. RPP Noticias and La República and different Peruvian newspapers and news outlets are taking this very seriously. So, as I said, this is occurring in the village of San Antonio with the Iquitu tribe. So they've been apparently under assault during the night by entities, let's call them. We don't know what they are. We don't know if they're human beings dressed in costumes. We don't know if they're alien entities, but the villagers are calling them extraterrestrials. In fact, the villagers are specifically calling them pelacaras, which means the face peelers. And we'll get into that after I finish describing what's been occurring. So apparently during the night, this particular village has been, let's say, terrorized by a group of very strange entities. These things are about, according, and I'm just going to give I'm going to give a brief explanation of what the villagers themselves, a brief summary rather, of what the villagers themselves have been saying. They're being attacked by these 7-foot-tall entities. The entities have bulbous heads. Their eyes have been described in various ways. They are dressed in very strange bodysuits. Silver, they've been described as armored and silver. So silver armored.
Let me know in the chat. I have this at 1.5. Let me know if that's too quick. Obviously, we're probably going to focus on this for this talk and get through as much as possible with some commentary so that we don't get a strike. So feel free, Margaret, to stop every few minutes if you have something to add, if something comes to mind. Darla, I have it at 1.5, 1.25. She says is perfect. Let me just continue on 1.5 and tell me if I really should go down to 1.25. Anyone is free to join. I want to know what everyone thinks about this.
Bodysuits is the way that they're being described. These entities actually attempted to abduct a 15-year-old girl, but the girl managed to break loose from their hands and escape. And the struggle resulted in lacerations on her neck. And there's footage and images of this young lady, and indeed she has lacerations on her neck in the photos and video. She was also, after the encounter, was in a state of shock for a few hours. Like, she couldn't talk. She was in a complete state of shock. She was absolutely terrified. All of the villagers are terrified, terrorized, really, I think is the appropriate term here. The beings are having footwear with discs on the bottom with a red light emanating from the...
Yeah, just say loud, stop, so I can hear you.
Heel portion of the footwear. And these discs apparently allow these beings to lift off the ground and float through the jungle about a meter off the ground. And apparently they can also lift off into the air through the agency of this technology they're wearing on their feet. Again, according to the villagers. And as you'll see in the videos that we're going to play, the villagers actually, they shoot at these entities with rifles and shotguns. And a couple of the villagers said they hit them. They shot right at it, but it didn't do anything to these entities. They just disappear or they take off. So that's it in brief. I should also say that the villagers, the reason why this came to the news, that it's gotten, first it got national coverage in Peru and now international. And the reason why is because the villagers were demanding that the Navy intervene. The Navy. Okay, this is a village on a river in the Alto Nanay, and we'll show a map in a little bit. And so they're demanding that the Navy come up, and that's why they want the Navy, because the Navy can get there quickly. There's a Navy base not far from that area. And so they're demanding that the Navy come and intervene and protect their village. They're saying they're not getting any sleep. They're staying awake all night. And so the whole story is actually very compelling. And again, I want to reiterate how this is being covered in Peru. It is not being covered as a joke, as a farce, as a hoax. The manner in which this story is being covered by the national press is very serious. So I think that encapsulates what's been happening. Again, I think the time frame here is the end of July. The last couple of weeks of July is when this, and I think it's the last occurrence happened about 5 days ago, I think, or at least the very end of July. So this isn't something that happened yesterday. In fact, the Peruvian Navy did indeed respond, and the police and the Navy are on the scene right now investigating, and they've been there for a couple of days. And so that's what's been happening, and it's very remarkable. It in light of the Vegas incident that occurred in the United States. Was that last month? I believe we talked about it. You and I and Dave Hodges. We discussed that Vegas incident. I believe the very night of the occurrence. And so, as you and I were talking, it seemed appropriate to jump back on and discuss this occurrence, this incident as well, especially since I have some familiarity with this area of the jungle, and some very strange things have happened to me in this region as well. I don't think I'm going to go into the details of those strange things tonight, but I have a connection to this region of the jungle. So it's when I didn't know where it was at first, and so I started investigating, watched the news coverage, the Peruvian media coverage of the incident, and I realized as they were talking, that, my God, I've been in the neighborhood of where this occurred, and perhaps is continuing to occur. So, Doug, why don't you go ahead and play a video so that people can see some of the footage and nice talking, and that's I've already reiterated what they're describing.
Do you want to start with the Phil Schneider, or you want to go straight to the other one?
No, let's go straight to the incident, the videos of the incident that was captured by the villagers. And in the video, by the way, one of the guys who happens to be the tribal leader of that village, he is describing these entities, these beings, as I said, they're in bodysuits, silver bodysuits that appear to have some sort of armoring. And so he likens them to the Green Goblin from the Spider-Man movie. And he talks about masks. They talk about these beings wearing masks, but I don't think that's actually what's going on here. I think that we'll get to that. We'll get to that in another video we're going to show. All right, go ahead and play this one.
Desesperados se defienden contra un atacante que desconocen.
So here they are, actively shooting at these beings, filming it on a cell phone.
Se trata de habitantes de la tribu Iquitu del distrito de Alto Nanay en Loreto, quienes denuncian ser víctimas de violentos ataques por parte de seres desconocidos.
Necesitamos apoyo para nuestra comunidad.
This is the village leader, the tribal leader of the village there. He says they're extraterrestrials, and then he's describing how they're.
It's hard to see. Obviously, it's in the night, to see clearly.
Yeah, but further in the video, you're going to see something hiding behind the foliage.
Okay.
Dressed. He said he shot at them, but they don't fall down. So they just get up and then they lift off into the air. So here you see the police showed up, and then some other videos you'll see the Navy. He's talking about how they have like discs on the bottom of their shoes, and they elevate off the ground. And they have a red light emanating from the bottom of these discs. And here's the 15-year-old girl. Go ahead and play that, Doug. There's the 15-year-old girl. They're blurring her face, but there she is. So go ahead and pause right there, Doug. So, and this particular news report, they're blurring her face, but I've got some news reports here that I've been watching where they don't blur her face, and you can clearly see her neck she has a couple lacerations on her neck. You can kind of see it in this video. You see the red.
You see the blood.
There's blood there, and there's some sort of bandaging there on her neck.
Let me ask you something. Have you ever heard of any type of attack or wound?
Yes. We're going to get into that in a minute, but so you can see the blood, you can see the bandaging. Apparently, she was physically grabbed by one of these beings. And I also heard one of the guys from the village describe these beings. This isn't the first encounter they've had with these beings. We'll get into that in a minute. Sometimes they encounter them wearing dark cloaks with hoods, and they attack at night. And they're trying to, they try to grab people at nighttime, and they're described as, I don't like to use movie references, but they're described as almost like the Predator from the movie, where you can see them and then suddenly they sort of almost go totally transparent. But you can still sort of see them there, but they just blend into the jungle. So some sort of a cloaking technology that these villagers are describing. Now, let me say, right off the bat here as we begin this discussion, I don't know what to make of this. I'm not here saying, and I know Doug's not here saying that we believe these people are being attacked by extraterrestrials and that we're 100% certain that they're telling the truth. I mean, we can't know that. We're way over here, and I'm way over here in Montana, very far away from this area. And all I can do is sit here and read the news articles and watch the videos in the Peruvian press. However, I do have a lot of experience with these tribal peoples from this specific region in Peru. Not this particular village, mind you, but all around that village. I've been all through there. Okay, I've been in this jungle, and again, have had very, very strange things happen to me in this jungle. So do you have the map that I sent you, the map link you can pull up? Okay, so can you zoom in on that map? Or is that a picture? Do you have a picture? Okay, good. So I want you to zoom in on the word Masan. Do you see it right in the middle of the screen? Down right there. You see that word Masan? Go ahead and zoom in there. All right. So, but
what's up?
He's gonna give a history of where he was when he was visiting South America. So you could zoom through that if you want to save time.
Okay.
Others can look up the video themselves.
All right. Do you want me to literally jump a few minutes ahead or just speed it across?
Yeah.
Jump ahead or speed? Okay. We're going to go fast, guys.
Yeah.
And lower it down a little bit. Okay. Zoom out just a little bit. I want to see the city of Iquitos. So there's Iquitos. You see Iquitos on the bottom? You see Iquitos and you see Indiana, and then you see Masan to the left of Indiana. Now, the reason why I'm highlighting this is because I've spent a lot of time in Masan and Iquitos as well, but I spent a lot of time in Masan. In fact, I had a nickname when I lived in this area of the jungle. My nickname was Masan. Some people called me the Lion of Masan for various reasons. So you see Masan, you see the river that branches up to the northwest from Masan. That is the famous Napo River. And there's a lot of headhunter tribes, a lot of historical intrigue up there up that river. Now zoom in on Masan. You're going to see when you zoom in, Masan's a little village. Now you see this river that branches off the left here. Follow that river. You see Santa Teresa, and it goes over to Libertad on the Masan River. So there's a town there called Libertad. It's not even a town. That's not the right way to say it. It's a community called Libertad. It's very, very small. I spent a lot of time with those people. I have good friends that live there. They're hunters and they're just villagers there in Libertad. Now, that river, you see how it jets up to the northwest? I've been all the way to the top of that thing. So deep, deep, deep into the jungle. That's a malaria red zone, by the way. If you zoom out from there, and I've been to the left, so I've been up that river and off to the left down a tributary that's doesn't even show up on this map because it's not big enough to be seen from the satellite. This is uncharted territory. It's really uncharted jungle up there. In fact, if you look at it on certain maps, you won't even see the river. It only goes so far here on certain maps. Now, zoom out a little bit, and you're going to see what's right to the left of it. Go ahead and zoom out. Right to the left, this highlighted area, this dark, that's Nanai. That's the district of Nanai. Okay, that's where this incident happened. Now, I have been inside of Nanai. I went up there. We canoed deep into the jungle up in that region. On a particular expedition, but I actually spent a lot of time up the River Masan, and there's nobody up there. I mean, up the River Masan, you only have madereros who are lumberjacks, basically illegal lumberjacks, and you probably have some drug traffickers. And I've run into both. But look how close the River Masan is to the region of Nanai. And again, the region of Nanai is highlighted here. It's the darker highlighted area. That whole area is the region of Nanai. And the main city of Iquitos is there to the right of that region. You fly into Iquitos. Iquitos is only accessible via airplane or boat. There's no road that goes to Iquitos. It's literally in the middle of the jungle, and that is, by the way, officially where the Amazon River starts. Okay, so that's just a little bit of a geospatial context here. And if you zoom out, you'll see where we are in Peru. Go ahead and zoom out. So we are in the northeast part of Peru, in the Amazon basin. That is Amazon jungle. That main river branching off there to the right, that's the Amazon River. Okay. So I have a lot of history in that area. And that's why this story is so intriguing to me. For two reasons. First and foremost, because of my own experiences out there. I did not experience these particular entities or anything like what these villagers experienced.
Okay, I just want to go back and acknowledge some comments because it's a little more interactive. There's a few more people. So suspicious sky. So I said, someone was asking Darla, what do you mean smarter? I think angels are definitely smarter in biological knowledge and definitely technological knowledge. They do know secrets. They were there literally during the creation of the world. You know, during creation week. The angels were there singing with joy, so they were firsthand witnesses of the start of this whole thing. So I'm sure they know a lot of advanced technologies. Then after suspicious says, but we know they are trying to deceive us. Yeah, that's as a Christian, it just lines up perfectly with the great deception that's going to come that most people will be deceived by. And a deception, well, it's deceiving because it appears to be true. I wonder how many of those people that were supposedly attacked pray. Oh, I wonder. He means I wonder how many of these people that were supposedly attacked pray to God. I've seen stuff about abduction experiences that if you call out the name of Christ, they say that the experience stops. How can I know if that's true or false? And then after my name is saying like this video is basically like it's psyops, you know, it's a psychological operation. And it just shows that we live in the time of deception. This so much information that we're being bombarded by, and
that's exactly what I'm thinking. That
drowning, you know, I'm drowning in information.
Really rich people are terrorizing these poor native people to see how far they can go with it, and then they're going to use it on the masses. That's my theory.
Yeah, exactly. Suspicious Sky is, like the name says, very suspicious. He thinks along the lines of what I think as well. Demons are taking form. Demons, fallen angels, I interchange them to mislead humans, all in the name of helping. So where is the DNA? Where there is a touch, there is a trace. So he's, you know, bringing up also the question. I think that large part, though we're making a lot of advances in DNA, there's still quite an amount of stuff that we need to know. At one point, they would talk about junk DNA. You know, within the code of DNA, there seem to be strands of nucleotides that are not doing anything. I think that the ability of genes and DNA itself to fold on each other and to kind of bring far away nucleotides closer to others could activate things that scientists at this point don't know what the function's for, so they call it junk. I don't think there's any junk in DNA. He's saying, you know, this right here, what's being revealed by Alberino is just, you know, like a psyops, just more misinformation to lead. I wanted to acknowledge that that opinion that he had. Sorry, Darla, little green men are not smarter than us. Those green men are so dumb they don't exist on God's flat earth. Well, who knows? You know, if you, I mean, they're stupid in respect that they think that that they acknowledge that there's a creator. Demons themselves acknowledge that, and they, in a way, know the end result. So maybe they're just trying to wreak as much havoc as they can, possibly. So I think Darla says, "Sorry, Darla, little green men are not smarter." Darla, you can respond to that. Exactly, junk DNA is just. I don't think as well that my name. I don't think that there's any junk DNA. Evolution is a made-up theory to a large extent. I am veering towards that direction as well. Let's continue.
Completely different kind of scenario unfold. However, I am.
Hey guys, we're going quickly through stuff that's not relevant. Do you think I should, while this map is showing up, just fast forward to here?
Yeah, if you could
Just-
go after the map.
Here, we're just going after the map when it's almost done. I'll bring it down slower again and we'll
Because
continue.
he has a tendency to
Surgically
repeat himself.
Yeah,
moved so that all
been there, done that.
you see is the bone structure. You see the jaw, you see the teeth, you see the bone structure, but no flesh. And so that leads us into this next video. Why don't you go ahead and play that next video, Doug?
Yeah, this is about to get wild.
And so this, now, before we play this video, I cannot find you. I don't know what the origin of this video is. I don't even know, to be honest, I don't even know what the context of the video is.
That's the gruesome
It purports to be a video that was filmed in 2023 this year. And from Loreto, Peru. So Loreto, by the way, is the state in which this occurred. So it purports to be from this year in the same department, the same state where this village is located. So go ahead and play that. So what you're looking at here are two Peruvian, they look like two gentlemen who either are police or civilian police or something, maybe detectives. Their vests say police, and they're taking the banana leaves off of this man who's lying on the bank of a river. And I think we determined that he was deposited there for the police. So they're removing these banana leaves, which people used to cover him. You're going to see why people covered his head with banana leaves in a moment. Again, those are they're.
He doesn't have a head.
Wait, you're going to see it.
Okay.
Their vests say police, so let's assume those are
Yes, rigor
Peruvian
mortis.
police. Now they're picking him up. And look at his head.
Is it a mask on top of him? Or?
It is
No,
bereft
no.
of skin.
Oh, it's a skeleton.
At least I'd say 3/4 of it, if not almost the entirety of his face is gone. Not partially gone, completely gone. And you'll see if you back up a little bit, Doug, because I think that's where, well, there he is laying on the ground. So let's see. Is that the end of the video?
Yeah,
it just plays. Okay, so back up, and you're going to notice that his face was removed with
All the way down the neck.
surgical precision around the neck there. You see that? There's a circular cut around the neck. Now, is this video real? Is it authentic? Or is it photoshopped or edited in some way? I don't know, but I think it'd be very difficult to edit this video because
that's a
you're
real
looking
body.
at somebody's cell phone footage. So we're looking at somebody's cell phone, a Peruvian villager's cell phone that they captured, presumably. And there's a lot of movement. You see all the movement. Look, they drop him. The police officer falls and drops him. I mean, it doesn't look
And you're
like
gonna see blood on the
prosthetic
side.
to me, and it does not look like CGI. Now, again, I don't know what the context is of this video, But I'm going to
And look at the
guess
bruising.
that this
Look
has
at the
something
bruising
to do
body.
with the pelacaras.
Yeah.
And when these Peruvian people call these beings pelacaras, I think we're looking at why they call them the face peelers. Again, allegedly this happened this year and is from the same general region of Peru where this village was attacked.
Hmm.
It's really quite disturbing.
Well, you can see that it appears to be rigor mortis has set in.
Yes.
I've seen my share of dead bodies. If even the movement right there, you can see the spine articulating.
Yes.
If this was a movie prop, my hat's off to you. That is the most convincing movie prop I've ever seen. But you can tell that the guy has weight to him. This guy right here, the policia, he slips coming up the end.
So they find this, but how are they tying this itself? Like, okay, they just found a body. Basically, the skin is removed
Because
completely.
right after the natives were shooting, they thought that girl was going to be raped. That's why the men all went out there,
Okay.
and then they saw this thing and they started shooting at it. And they from the rumors and everything, and their history,
Mm-hmm.
they believe it's a face peeler.
Did they find just one?
Guy, no, there's more than one apparently.
More than one body that's been.
Oh no, they found this body after that incident.
Okay.
So that's why they're relating it to the face peelers, or to what happened with the natives, because somebody brought this body in right after that incident.
Uh-huh.
Now, how would you're in the medical system? How would you do this?
Well, I mean, to be honest, it's not that hard. I mean, we've had like the Indians that scalp. I just have to answer. I'm going to continue with the video, and we'll go back to how it could be done. Just give me a sec. I'll let it play, guys.
Embankment.
Hey, Dad.
If this was going to be a movie, it was shot very poorly, but we have not been able to discern yet if this is a movie, if it's a spoof. That seems to be a dead man. I've seen my share of that. I have never seen an injury like this. I've seen people blown apart, lacerated. When I worked in federal prisons, I've seen people stabbed up, gutted, half their face cut off before. But there's, it seems like he has been exsanguinated. There's no blood. There's no blood coming out of anywhere. Look, the face will bleed more than almost anything else because the hundreds of capillaries that are all over the face, and there is no flesh anywhere. There's no burn marks from what we can see on here, and you can even see the scalp line where the fatty tissue is.
Exactly.
And the way the neck articulates.
Yeah, I mean, you look at the Indians, they used to kind of remove and scalp and stuff like that. Often the face could come with it, but that's also like it's been cleaned of everything, because obviously if you lift up, you make an incision, you start peeling off the face, it's not right away on the skeleton.
There's only a little bit of blood on his neck that I saw, but I also see bruising on the shoulders.
Yeah. It definitely, when you rip off just the skin, facelifts, you see stuff to a certain extent too at the hospital. I've seen.
Whoever did this to him are psycho crazy wonkers.
Yeah, and they clean this. It's almost like the skeleton to me almost looks a little bit too white, but let's let it play a little bit more.
As they're moving, I mean, it takes 3 men to move a dead body. That's fairly accurate. A person who's completely, limp is a very, very heavy weight. And what we guess is that someone came down the river, deposited this man along the side of the river for the police to then go and collect. And this is most likely the criminal investigators who are here.
I can say that we can confirm that this particular video was uploaded
There's
to
the
YouTube.
coroner.
Right. There he is. Yeah. This particular video was uploaded to YouTube on August 2nd. So this may be very recent, and it may in fact be directly related to the incident in the village. These villagers who are being terrorized by these ostensibly extraterrestrial beings. I mean, that's just that is very grotesque. I've never seen anything like that before. And again, this illustrates why they call these entities pela caras, the face peelers. And I think we are, in my opinion, again, for all we know, this could be a hoax. I don't know, but my gut feeling is that this is not a hoax. This is real, and we are looking at a human mutilation as opposed to a cattle mutilation. We are looking at a human mutilation.
I want to say that he appears to have some sort of a burn here on his right shoulder.
I thought it was a bruise.
Yeah.
And bruising.
Well, you were still noticing an anomaly on the skin for sure. Geez, it looks just too perfectly white though. It's definitely been cleaned up. like they.
But okay, so your face is peeled and you're left outside in the sun.
Yeah.
Would your skull bleach a bit?
Well, I think that it has to have been cleaned by whatever. Let's assume it's aliens. That whoever the perpetrator is, ripped the face off, but as well cleaned off every every residue that would be naturally stuck, because obviously you have skin cells, you have all of these cells here. He doesn't look bloated too much either, unless it's recent. Like you said, it could be very recent.
Yes.
I'm just saying that whatever did this, if it's not a hoax, cleaned off every last possible thing besides the skull, like removed everything off the skull.
Acid would do that. Acid would do that. But then the acid would drip it to the other parts of the head.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, like, it's here you see like it's the hair is still there, and it seemed like it took a bigger chunk there. I mean, I'm looking at it open-minded. For me, what's more interested would be the claims of the people than just even one example. Because I'm still looking for, okay, they're claiming alien attacks or demonic attacks by spiritual beings.
And this is part of their legends, these face peelers. So how better to terrorize than to actually have the people believing this is happening now, you know?
Yeah. Well, that's why it's worth watching these things. Who knows? But it's just an overload of information that even with a discerning eye, and I think it's purposeful. Even a discerning eye is just overwhelmed with all of these things, you know. But it does look like a legit situation here. I'm gearing more on the side that this isn't a fake compared to.
He said that the coroner's there in the video or something.
Yeah, I'd be interested in getting their perspective too.
Long as left that you can see from the chest to this shoulder. It almost looks like this arm was out of socket, but the body moves really weird whenever it's limp and dead.
My video is stuck on where they're pulling up the guy's arm. They're going to move him.
Yeah.
My video stalled, I guess.
Okay, mine's playing good.
So there's some sort of another injury. You can see the color tone right here is different. If it was hit by a radiation, I mean, I can only speculate. I don't know of any instrument that can do this. I mean, that steam would do that. Steam can melt you right down to the bone, but that would be a 3rd-degree burn. And even so, you would still see blackening, possibly. You'd still see blackening along the epidermis, and you're not really seeing that. You can see where most likely this is a pool of blood where he's been laying down at when the body is when the body dies, the blood will pool wherever the body is laying flat at. All right. So you can see most likely this is where the blood was pooling at in the body. And like I said, it's some sort of an injury right here. So if something came and hit him like this, or from right here, but once again, that's a cut right here.
Well, what we're looking at, as I said, it's a human mutilation. Just think cattle mutilation, but done to a human being. That's, I believe, what we're looking at. Now, there's extra compression going on through Zoom. The video is actually a little bit clearer on YouTube. So there's some extra compression going on. And people say, well, why is it so pixelated and so forth? Because we have a crappy cell phone filming another crappy cell phone. That's why. So you're looking at an image that isn't very high res to begin with, that was apparently filmed by a Peruvian. I say Peruvian because I can see her sitting there. You can see her feet here in the video. She's sitting there showing somebody footage that, again, presumably either she took or somebody else took and showed it to her. So this is quite astounding. Again, we don't know if this is real. For all we know, this could be a movie prop. Somebody's going to say, oh, this is from a movie, and put a link in the comments. Okay. But I think, again, to illustrate what we mean by what these jungle folk mean by pelacaras, I think we're looking at what they mean by the face peelers. This is at the very least, I think, a good illustration of what face peelers do. And we very well may, to reiterate, we very well may be looking at the result of an attack by a so-called pelacara, face peeler. So let's talk about some other things that are very, very intriguing regarding this incident that happened in this village in Alto Nanay. One thing that stood out to me right away when I began to research this incident is that the villagers are claiming that these entities are over 2 meters tall. Specifically, they're describing them as being around 7 feet tall. Mm-hmm. That rings a bell immediately, because we referenced the Vegas incident. During that Vegas incident that happened last month, I believe it was last month, correct? No, it was the end of May, was it not? The very last day, night of May.
Yeah, that Vegas one. That one looks pretty darn legit. Is that I don't follow this. Go ahead.
It also happened in Australia right after the Vegas incident.
This was the one where they were freaking out, right? And saying like that, explaining these tall beings and whatever. Police arrived, but the police saw like some weird light anomaly in the sky, and they saw that, so they were kind of like taking it seriously. Is that the one that they're talking about?
Yeah.
Okay.
And then it happened again in Australia about 2 weeks later.
We have a video of that?
No, but I think he's going to mention it also.
Okay. I believe is when it occurred. Right. The first hours of June, I think, is when that happened. And those people described very tall alien beings. And I think the one kid said 10 feet tall, another one said 8. I saw some footage from the Vegas event. By the way, the jury's out in my mind on the Vegas event, on the Vegas incident. I don't know if those guys were telling the truth. I don't know if they were embellishing, if they were confabulating. But I'm just going to tell you, my gut feeling is that they're telling the truth, and that there was some sort of a non-human entity stalking around in their backyard. In fact, I'll go so far as to say that there is a particular, I wish we had it ready to queue up here, but we didn't want to bother to take time to find it, but I'm sure many of you have seen this already. There is a particular video that has been extracted from the news channel's video that they took. And remember, they're walking to the backyard during this news broadcast. They're walking into the backyard with these gentlemen who called 911 about these aliens in their backyard. So they're walking into the backyard and they shut the cameras off. And before they shut the cameras off, you can see the forklift. This isn't like a regular backyard with grass. These people apparently work on cars or something. So they have sort of looks like almost like an enclosure with gravel on the ground, and they have forklift back there and some other things. And you can see the forklift in the background. Now there's two things I want people to jettison from their minds right away. Don't think about that fake CGI, alleged camera footage of that alien creature. That was totally fake CGI garbage. And don't think about the video of the up close of the fence with allegedly an alien creature looking through the cracks or whatever. I'm not referencing those two videos. There's another video where somebody zooms in on the forklift, and you can see. Now, is the video real? I don't know. Is there CGI in there? Was it edited? I don't know. But you can see a large gray alien being sort of ducking behind the forklift, but you can clearly see his bulbous head and black eyes, and you can see his head move. I don't have a link to that video. We don't have it to queue up right now, but maybe some of you have seen it. If not, I would go look for it, because it's the most compelling video of that whole incident, the Vegas incident. You can see a gray alien, and that being, when I'm looking at the forklift, and in my head, I was watching it with my wife, and I said, that looks like a 7 foot tall gray alien. It's exactly what I deduced. It looks like it's about 7 feet tall, maybe 7.5 feet tall, maximum 8. It's a very tall gray alien. Now that's strange to a lot of people because you all hear me talk about gray aliens all the time. And we know that gray aliens, one of the distinguishing features of gray alien is its diminutive stature. They're small. They're 3 to 4 feet tall, or 3.5 to 4 feet tall. And they have the bulbous heads, the almond shaped eyes, and so forth. They have the long fingers, 3 fingers. And the interesting thing here is with the Vegas incident is we're looking at what appears to be a gray alien, but a 7 foot tall gray alien with the same characteristics, the same features, the bulbous head, the almond shaped eyes, but much, much larger, 3 times the size of a typical gray alien. Now that's interesting. That's interesting. Obviously, it correlates here to what these villagers are saying they saw in this jungle village that was terrorizing them, attacked this 15-year-old girl. But it's also interesting because the late Phil Schneider talks about these beings in detail, these exact beings, tall grays that were living under the ground when he was building an underground base, when he was an engineer on a project. I believe it was under Los Alamos National Laboratory. They were building an underground base there. So we can show that video in a couple minutes. But before we do that, let's return to the village in the Alto Nanay. And let's look at that other video. This video, I think, is the most astounding video. And in my mind, it correlates directly to the Vegas incident video because I think we're looking at the very same species here, the very same class of beings. And we will discuss in a little bit what we think these beings may be, or at least the options. But let's take a look at this video, if you can cue that one up. So just to give some context, this is another night when they're being attacked by these, what they're calling...
There is where we zoomed in earlier. Eye, and what we think is the head. Right here.
Yeah, so what we're looking at in this video, you have...
Jason?
What's that?
My video is frozen. I still have the guy in the red t-shirt and jeans holding the arm.
Here, it is running well. You want to pop out and then I'll pop you back in, or I'll kick you out and bring you back in. Maybe it's you're frozen or something.
Okay.
All right,
Because
let
I
me
have
throw you out.
in the top right corner the guys are talking. That I
Yeah.
can see, but in the center, the video with the girl's foot, that's frozen.
Yeah. Okay. I'm gonna kick you and then I'm gonna bring you back. Or let's see here. There. So what are you seeing now? Are you seeing kind of it says Singe el tero por las palicaras?
No, don't see that. So I'm going to step out and then come back in.
Yeah, I'll send the link.
Okay.
So it's fresh. Here you go. Anybody else is willing to jump on? Please feel free to jump on. Maria says, how could we know if it's not a psyops where they actually kill people? A small village would be perfect to do such evil acts. Yeah, I mean, I guess we all have to kind of just, take in the information, put it on the back burner, and just, not completely dismiss this. I don't think that by the end of this, anybody is going to be able to be 100% sure. It's going to rely on your own discernment as well. Just waiting for Margaret. Margaret, I'm just going to play it for a little bit.
A lot of agitated villagers and a dog or two in here. These guys are genuinely agitated and terrified. Okay, you can hear it in their voices. I can understand what they're saying in Spanish. This is the jungle lingo. This is the kind of Spanish I speak really well. So what's really amazing about this video, yes, it's blurry. Yes, it's pixelated. Okay, but keep in mind that these people living in the jungle, they've upgraded the smartphones by this time, but they've got the cheapest smartphones on the market. They're not walking around with your Apple iPhone. Okay, these guys are buying Chinese knockoff phones that can barely capture video. That's why you're looking at such low resolution. And anybody who says, how come there's not a ton of video? Because not everybody in this little village, these Iquitu natives, even have phones. Okay, so there's probably only a small percentage of them who even have smartphones. Okay, so when you play this video again, what you hear in the beginning is you hear a man yell, there it is, as they're flashing the flashlight right on it. And they're trying to get the dogs in the backyard here as well. You can hear them saying, put them in the huerta, put them in the huerta. And the dog, because the dog is obviously irate. And so the people are stunned, they're terrified, and they're shouting, there it is, there it is. And they're literally putting a flashlight on something. Now, what exactly that something is anyone's guess, but it is a something, and it is moving. And you can see, if you, especially again, this is highly compressed because of Zoom, but you can see in some of these frames, you can see two eyes and a bulbous head. Right there, you can see an eye, you can see the right eye there and the top of the head. Now, let's assume that what we're looking at here is a tall gray alien, a 7-foot tall gray alien. The same thing that I described previously that was hiding behind the forklift in the video from the Vegas incident. Let's assume for a moment that that's exactly what we're looking at. If you look at that Vegas incident video and you look at this video and you take a good look at it frame by frame, you are going to see the same creature. This is the same. Now, I'm not saying this is the exact same entity, but this is, let's call it the same species. If in fact these videos are real.
So this is a frontal view, right? This up here would be its head.
Yeah.
Maybe it's
and there's some foliage. Yeah, and there's some foliage there.
We are looking at the same species. Tall, gray aliens that are around 7 foot tall, but with the same typical features of the small grays, the bulbous heads, the almond-shaped black eyes. And in fact, Doug, I don't know if you have the time stamp, but it appears that we can even see some shine from one of the eyes. Right there, you can see that was actually a very good still. You could see the two eyes and the head. And by the way, the head is slightly moving from side to side. You can see it slightly moving from side to side. Now, a lot of people are going to have right there. That's a very good. You can see the bottom of the face and the two eyes, the two almond-shaped eyes in the top of the head there, right? Now, this being is hiding behind foliage. So they're flashing a flashlight up into the trees, and this being is ducking behind foliage. He's probably floating there, okay? And he's ducking behind foliage so that you see him through the leaves. You're seeing branches of trees and foliage around him. So don't think that this whole green blob is the being that they're pointing out. No, rather, you can see his head behind the foliage. And again, if you watch the video very, very carefully and closely, you will see his head move side to side, slightly. And up and down, slightly up and down. There, he just looked down. You see? He looked straight again. Did you see that, Doug? He looked down a little bit.
Yep.
Okay, now people may think, oh, I don't see anything, you're just making this up. Well, keep in mind again, I've seen a less compressed footage of this. Again, Zoom is adding some additional compression here.
You want to see the still photos?
To me, it's clear as day that this is some let's just say this, something moving behind that foliage. It's something is there moving, and it appears to me to be the head of a large gray alien. That's my opinion. I could be wrong, but it appears to me to be the head of a large gray alien. And it looks very similar to what I described in the Vegas incident footage. Okay, 7 foot tall gray alien. Now, why don't we go to the
before
Phil
we do that,
Schneider clip?
I want to show the still photos. So this is what we were able to screen capture. This is the foliage that was in front of it.
Yeah, there's the foliage. There's the
eye.
There you go. Two eyes, bottom of the head, bottom of the mouth. You can almost see, Doug, the circular. You see sort of like the oval shaped head where it's sort of going down there. You can see sort of there's a line there. There's sort of a shadow. Do you see? Go back to that picture. Go back to the other one that we're looking at. Do you see? You can sort of see right there. You can sort of see the outline of the bottom of the face. Now zooming in doesn't help, but this entity looks, as I said, very much like the one at the Vegas incident. I would say identical, but also it looks, again, I'll use the word identical, to the beings that were captured in the most convincing and compelling UFO footage I've ever seen, which was captured by Dr. Laird and another gentleman, I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, Doug, and people are going to correct me in the comments if I'm wrong. I believe it was captured in Turkey.
Yes.
And I think people know the video I'm referring to. There's a craft hovering above the sea, and they zoom in. They're filming, and they weren't looking for aliens that night. They're doing something else. They zoom in. They happen to capture this. They zoom into it, and you can see 3 beings, and the beings look precisely like what you're looking at right now on our screen.
This is part of the eye
There
shot.
he is. He's looking down there. You see,
Yep.
slightly looking down there. He's looking down and to his left, and this one he's looking more straight on at us. Okay. Now, again, some people are going to criticize me and say, "No, you have a wild imagination. There's nothing there. It's just a green blob of nothing." But understand that these Peruvian jungle people are absolutely terrified. Okay, this is not a staged scene. These people are not acting. They are in a state of panic and terror. And remember, they were shooting at these things with rifles and shotguns. Okay. And they describe them in great detail. So I referenced earlier that the gentleman, the tribal leader of the Iquitu people there in the village of San Antonio in Alto Nanay, described these beings as wearing masks, these extraterrestrials as wearing masks. I don't believe that they're wearing masks. Rather, I think that he's mistaking the typical gray alien face with the long almond-shaped eyes, the large almond-shaped eyes. He's mistaking that for a mask because these people are not going to be really familiar with ufology. They know about UFOs, ovnis, UFOs, but they're not going to be familiar with the details of gray aliens or anything like that. So I think they're assuming that these beings are wearing masks, when in reality, I think they're looking at the typical gray alien face there. So let's go ahead and listen to some of Phil Schneider's testimony, which again, so what I'm doing here for the audience, I'm trying to correlate 3 separate incidents here, okay? 3 separate incidents. The Vegas incident, the Peruvian Amazon incident that we're talking about here, and Phil Schneider's incident that happened while he was helping to build an underground base under Los Alamos. Those are...
I think I saw briefly this one here.
Yeah, I think he was shot in the chest, and he shows the scars in his video. Yeah, not this video, but in his video.
Just want to try and give some information about Timothy Alberino. He also obviously has books. He has a lecture. He has lecture series. I've heard and seen this guy on YouTube plenty. He's a Christian. So known as a modern day Indiana Jones, Timothy Alberino is a consummate explorer. His exquisitive mind and insatiable appetite for adventure have led him all over the world in search of lost cities, lost civilizations, hidden treasures, and legendary creatures. He is also an avid researcher and published author whose scholarly pursuits are as daring as his expeditions. After years of rigorous study, Alberino has garnered an expansive knowledge base that enables him to dissertate with authority on a wide variety of esoteric topics, including theories on alternative history, ancient mythologies, megalithic architecture, giants, Bigfoot, and other cryptids, UFO and alien abductions, transhumanism, and emerging technologies, occult conspiracy, and Christian end time. Well, eschatologist means end time. Birthright, the coming post-human apocalypse, and the usurpation of Adam's dominion on planet Earth. So the Earth and distant extraterrestrial worlds are reeling in the wake of war and ruin. A powerful insubordinate prince personified as the dragon, the devil, and Satan has mounted an unsuccessful insurrection against the kingdom of heaven in battle of unimaginable destruction. The planets in our solar system, once teeming with life, have been laid waste and left to careen in its orbits, desolate and empty. After untold eons of inundated oblivion, the time has come to restore the terrestrial realm and appoint a new regent to govern it, Adam, the first human. So he's like, he has some Christianity, but I don't know how he ties that in. But this is the preamble to the story of mankind. The offspring of Adam have forgotten who they are, now faced with extinction at the hands of an alien adversary. It is time for them to remember. Obviously trying to sell a book, nothing wrong with that. Tim Alberino retraces the pages and reveals the secrets of the greatest story ever told, the one in which we are all inescapably embroiled from the galactic rebellion in pre-Adamic past to the creation of mankind on the planet, the fall of the Watchers in the pre-flood world, to the machinations whatever, of Luciferian forces in modern times, the unveiling of the alien presence, to the final battle at Armageddon. He unpacks this. I know he's all over YouTube. Here, the Genesis 6 production, technology of the fallen angels. Not sure so here he's acknowledging fallen angels, but I don't know if he's stating that they're aliens. I'm not sure where he is here in his ideology. Was there high technology in forgotten worlds before the flood of Noah? So he acknowledges the flood of Noah. Who were the real builders of the megaliths? I think it's the giants. The giants were the manpower, but the angels were the knowledge. Why is there a deliberate conspiracy to conceal their origins? The unholy sea is probably, the Vatican. Are the forbidden secrets of prehistoric past linked to the forthcoming events of the prophetic future? Is there a hidden hand confiscating and concealing artifacts related to the world before Noah and the hybrid entities they inhabited? Are living giants still walking on Earth? Is the Vatican preparing for the arrival of an alien savior? I think that's what they're preparing for in this fast-paced episode. So he definitely is very compelling and interesting. The Holocaust of the Giants. An ancient conspiracy has been quite burgeoning behind the bustle of the modern world, from the mounds of America to the megalith ruins of the islands of Sardinia and the Mediterranean Sea. The desiccated bones of dead giants are being systematically distombed and secreted.
Yeah.
That I believe, because there was a lot of the New York Times and stuff like that, just articles about giant bones found and stuff like that. And definitely Christians that aren't scared of their own scriptures have to acknowledge that, all of Canaan, the conquest that God sent the Israelites to sometimes at times quite ruthlessly, battle against, all within Canaan are the Rephaim, the Zinzumims, the Amalekites, the Amorites. There's just a huge, whether they are direct descendants in the land of Canaan, the promised land where Jerusalem itself is now, whether they were all, or some of the descendants were as well intermingling to the point where this was God's chance of, trying to eliminate them after the flood. Talking about the genome of the giants, the resurrection of the dreaded race of Rephaim in the earth. I believe, obviously, the guy, wants to sell books too, but it's some guy to listen to, I guess, open-mindedly, as we're doing now. Take what you need from it, I guess.
That's interesting, though. But I think if these are actual human beings doing this, then it's really diabolical to terrorize people like that and to mutilate a body.
Yeah.
That is totally psycho.
Yeah, it's definitely satanic. Over here, let's just continue a little bit here. This guy's testimony.
These are three things. These are three incidents. I'm trying to draw correlation here because I think we're dealing with the exact same beings. Go ahead.
Now, I was involved in something very controversial, almost totally unbelievable to most of you. During the unbelievable part, I was involved in building another base inside of Dulce, New Mexico, which is Los Alamos Laboratory. It's a biological laboratory. On the southwest part of the Archuleta Mesa, we built an underground facility, a better part of 3 cubic miles hollowed out underground. Then to the southwest of that, we were in the process of the early stages of building. We drilled 4 large tunnel-like holes. Some of them ran 2.5 miles under the surface. Number of the original wells or drilling machines that were used were at the rate of 2 miles a day. It was fairly rapid. The equipment kept coming up broken. So we wanted to go down, we wanted to send somebody down there, a human observer, or human observers in this case, to find out what was going on. Well, to our total surprise, first of all, the government knew all about it. They didn't tell anybody. When I saw Green Beret and Black Beret people encamped inside of our geologist camp, I knew something was up. The gig was up. First of all, I knew all about the alien agenda. I'll explain that in a few minutes. The large alien grays had been encamped there for, as best as believed possible, about 400 or 500 years. Had been one of their internal bases. And we drilled holes right on top of it. All the stinking air, all the black sooty air came right out as soon as the first hole was sunk, and all this soot came up. And, well, that's when all the hell broke loose, really, all it started. Anyway, after we drilled all 4 holes, it took about 2 days to drill all 4 of them. And when you build an underground base, you drill 4 basic holes, and you build called stopes or cross-member holes across, and you use blasting equipment, special blasting equipment by the analyzation of the rock formation, and you literally blast out or tunnel out or deflagrate or melt rock out to build the large rooms that are required for this underground base. Well, in this process, I was lowered down the basket of one of these holes, and about from me to this elderly woman here in the front was sitting a 7-foot-tall alien gray. The stench was worse than the worst garbage can you can imagine. The person or the entity was absolutely horrible. I didn't waste any time reaching my pistol. At that time, I was an engineer. I didn't have time to carry all the folderol of one of these big submachine guns that all the sea spray and the yellow fruit and all the outer perimeter and inner perimeter security people carried. I carried a little Walter PPK pistol with a 9-shot clip. This is in late August of 1979. Now, you got a regular suit of clothes. You got a regular clothes on, plus you're in almost like a spacesuit environment, and you're reaching for a gun. It's not the easiest thing to do, and then to pop a clip in it and start shooting. And I killed 2 of them. Yes, they're mortal, and they do die. However, in the process, one of them did this. All I remember is that he just kind of waved his hand in front of his chest, and the next thing I know, this blue beam hit me and just literally opened me up like a fish, and burnt my fingers right off of me. And it was some form of electrical force, because the kind of like being hit by a lightning bolt burned all my toenails off of me. Completely crispy crittered my left foot, burnt the shoe right off of me. All I remember is the smoking remains, and I'm still conscious, but in and out of, I didn't remember much. And there was a Green Beret that was right behind me that risked his life. In fact, he died. But he risked his life. He shoved me back in the basket and hit the button and picked me up. And I wouldn't be alive talking to you today if it wasn't for him. I'm forever indebted. He lost his life. 66 Secret Service agents, Green Berets, Black Berets, crack troops lost their lives because the government, our United States government, lied, did not tell us anything about the alien threat. There's a war underneath there, and I'm talking dead serious. Now, it gets to the big question. If all this has been hidden from us, everybody says, well, where's the proof? I've got some of the proof laying on the table. But a lot of you probably are totally skeptical. They say, well, that could be anything.
So obviously, Phil here was talking about what he calls large gray aliens, 7 feet tall. So there, again, correlation there between the Amazon incident, the Vegas incident. And they had some sort of technology. It waved its hand in front of its chest, and some sort of a beam emanated from this entity's chest and struck Phil, or rather technology around this entity's chest, and struck Phil, and as he said, opened him up like a fish. And you'll see that, as he talked about, he lost a couple of fingers, he lost some toes.
I saw all his fingers, though.
He had aggressive cancer after that incident. So maybe you're right, Doug, in speculating that man whose face had been ripped off or whatever. Maybe it was some sort of an energy beam or something. Maybe the very kind of technology that Phil Schneider was hit with there under the ground. So I find this to be very, very intriguing. Is it true that these tall gray alien beings have bases right here in the United States under the ground? Might they also have bases in the Amazon? But it's important to point out that, assuming that these entities are real, that they're not bestial, they're not primal creatures. These are very advanced beings with technology. Yes, very ugly, very grotesque beings, but nevertheless in possession of advanced technology. Okay, so let's speculate. Assuming everybody's telling the truth, right? Let's just assume, let's operate in an environment in which we are assuming that Phil Schneider's story, the Vegas incident, and the Amazon incident are all true. And now let's speculate at what we might be looking at in terms of these entities. Now, I think the most obvious conclusion that we could draw based on the data would be that these are, at the very least, biological creatures in possession of advanced technology that are not immortal and that are, at least to some extent, operating in underground bases, operating in beneath the soils of America, perhaps the Amazon and other places around the world, that they have some sort of dwelling, habitation there. I think we can also assume that these same entities, these tall grays, are also in possession of advanced aerospace vehicles, that they're not confined to, let's say, the underground, but that they also, because of the kind of technology on display in all three of these incidents, they're also in possession of advanced technology from which they could derive advanced aerospace vehicles. In other words,
there's like people are seeing also just kind of going out of the water as well, that there's like, travel underwater at as well, some crazy speeds and stuff like that. I just want to bring it back just so there's some pauses and stuff like that. When you look at the fifth trumpet, the locust that comes from the bottomless pit, but these aren't just any kind of locust. It says the fifth angel sounded, and I saw a star fallen from heaven to the earth. To him was given the key to the bottomless pit. He opened the bottomless pit, and smoke arose out of the pit like the smoke of a great furnace. So the sun and the air were darkened because of the smoke of the pit. We've seen how things like can look kind of weird when there's forest fires. It almost looks like on Supernatural, the look of it. And he opened the bottomless pit. The smoke arose, blah, blah, blah. Then out of the smoke locusts came upon the earth. And to them was given power, as the scorpions of the earth have power. They were commanded not to harm the grass of the earth or any green thing or any tree, but only those men who do not have the seal of God on their foreheads. And they were given authority, and they were not given authority to kill them, but to torment them for 5 months. Their torment was like the torment of a scorpion, when it strikes a man. In those days, men will seek death and will not find it. They will desire to die, and death will flee from them. The shape of the locusts were like horses prepared for battle. On their heads were crowns something like gold, and their faces were like the face of men. They had hair like women's hair, and their teeth were like lion teeth. And they had breastplates like breastplates of iron, and the sound of their wings was like the sound of chariots with many horses running into battle. They had tails like scorpions, and there were stings in their tail. Their power was to hurt men 5 months, and they had a king over them, the angel of the bottomless pit, whose name in Hebrew is Abaddon, but in Greek he has the name Apollyon. One woe is past; behold, 2 more woes are coming after these things. So this is the description of the locust. A foreshadowing is the locust that came upon Egypt, which is just a foreshadowing. What's interesting here is Abaddon, the destroyer in Hebrew, and Apollyon in Hinduism. It's Shiva, and we know that there is a statue of Shiva.
Yeah, at Cern.
Cern, yeah, I'm going to pop that one up here just as an image.
But it sounds like drones.
Yeah, here. So this is just outside Cern. Cern has a statue of Shiva, and what's also interesting is the bottomless pit a portal that could be opened by Cern, or is it more literal? Like, no, the underground, there truly is stuff happening deep within the earth. It could be one or the other. But definitely keep an eye on Cern. Their opening ceremony was satanic. It all had to do with a portal and eyeballs and 3 ghosts coming out and all sorts of it was really a satanic ritual. I've gone through a shorter version of that. Now,
But I have a theory of this too.
Mhm.
We have all these frequencies happening, the G5, the radio, the TV. The electricity going along the wires, like all these different frequencies. Now, if you really amp that up,
Yeah.
could you bring these demonic angels? Like, are they feeding off the energy? Like,
Who knows? Or yeah, I mean, at this point, it's just kind of guessing and throwing out ideas. Here you see the army of locusts. This is nothing new that John is talking about. He's referring to Joel, one of the minor prophets. And minor prophets, they just call them major because the books are bigger, and minor are smaller books. But here it says, let all who live in the land tremble, for the day of the Lord is coming. It is close at hand. So the day of the Lord has not arrived. Christ has not arrived. Jesus has not come fulfilling the day of the Lord, because the Father gave him authority to do that. It is close at hand, a day of darkness and gloom, a day of clouds and blackness. Like dawn spreading across the mountains, a large and mighty army comes, such as never was in ancient times, nor ever will be in ages to come. So we haven't seen this yet. Before them, fire devours. Behind them, flames blaze. Before them, the land is like the Garden of Eden. Behind them, a desert waste. Nothing escapes. They have the appearance, remember, of horses that Revelation was referring to. So that's why I'm saying Revelation, there's 800 references to the Old Testament. John is not creating something new. He's just unveiling something in a little bit more clarity that was vague in the prophets. This surely was vague. This is not something that's come to pass. They have the appearance of horses. They gallop along like cavalry, with a noise like that of chariots. They leap over mountaintops like a crackling fire, consuming stubble, like a mighty army drawn up for battle. So this is the locust invasion here and stuff like that. So yeah, some pretty crazy stuff. So you could look more at Joel. I remember that's why I came back to Joel. Anyways, it's very end time prophet Joel. We don't really, we hear stuff about Revelation. What else is there? Anything? No. Okay, we'll just continue.
Craft. So I think that's the most obvious deduction. We can call them alien because they're obviously non-human. So maybe non-human intelligence is the best way to describe these. We don't know where they come from. We don't know how long they've been here. But again, working within the framework of these stories being true, we can conclude that they are here and that they're not good. These are very nasty entities, and they're doing things that they're harming human beings. Apparently, this is part, by the way, the famous Dulce War, the lore regarding this confrontation in the deep underground military base and the underground, generally speaking, in Dulce, New Mexico, where there was this large conflict and we lost some of our contractors and military personnel in that conflict, and they were killed. They were casualties of this war with these particular beings, these tall grays. So, if that's true, let's now say that what I just said is true. Let's say that's true. Well, then my next question, my next line of inquiry would be, in what way are these beings related, the tall grays related to the small grays, the ones that we're more familiar with, the typical grays? Because obviously we're dealing with the same biological architecture. They look the same. They're apparently the same, different, they're the same species, but of different statures. So I think we're entitled to then wonder if they're related. Are they related? And if so, are the larger grays actually in charge of the smaller ones? Did they create the smaller ones? Or are these larger grays simply the insectilins that we hear so much about in the abduction material? These very well may be the insectilins. It's hard to tell. I think if we could see the body frame, if we could see the arms, if they had spindly insect-like arms and legs, then I think we could determine that these are the insectilins. But I've never seen enough of the certainly not in any of the three incidents that we've been discussing. There isn't the kind of quality footage or imagery to make a determination if these are the insectilins. But Schneider calls them tall gray aliens, or rather large gray aliens, and I think that's an appropriate description. So that's one possibility, that these are biological alien creatures, alien beings that are either primordial beings from planet Earth. In other words, they've been here for a long time and they've been inhabiting the Earth, subterranean world, or they came here from somewhere else, or it's both. They've been here for a long time, but also they go back and forth, or they've come from somewhere else and they go back and forth to who knows where, another planet perhaps, the moon. I don't know.
It's funny because like it gives the impression, especially his writing, that he's Christian, but I haven't heard anything about, well, maybe they're interdimensional beings. He seems to be focused. My ears always open, for that. Seems to be, heavily focused on them being intergalactic or extraterrestrial. There is.
Yeah, I noticed that.
I want to tie again over here. This passage always stuck in my head as well. It says in Revelation, and I saw 3 unclean spirits like frogs. So they look like frogs, and they're coming out of the mouth of the dragon, the mouth of the beast, and the mouth of the false prophet. I think that if you look at end time eschatology and study the end times, who could be the false prophet, who's the beast, there's a beast that comes out of the earth, there's a beast that comes out of the sea in Revelation. And we'll get to that when I slowly go through the book of Revelation.
And it's funny that you mentioned that. It's funny that you mentioned that because a lot of these alien sightings, they talk of 3, like abduction. How do you say that?
Abductions? Yeah, abductions.
They talk of 3.
Yeah, I see these. I see the unholy trinity, the false prophet. I see the mouth of the beast can be the false prophet is all that propaganda machine that's keeping us confused and spinning in circles. You have the mouth of the beast. Is that the beast system itself with the image, with the control of finances to, put pressure on everybody to accept it? But it's coming out of the mouth of the dragon. So I think that maybe just like the word of God, comes out of his mouth. Sometimes they refer to him, having a mouth, but we know Yahweh is spirit. So he doesn't have a mouth, but they use those physical expressions. But yeah, there's clearly these are unclean spirits, so they're demonic, multi-dimensional fallen angel beings. They look like frogs, and when I look at the grays, whatever artistic rendition you want to look at, they do look amphibious. They have small slits for mouths. Big bulging eyes, more like amphibious skin, in my opinion. You also have this image here, like you're comparing frogs to these grays. I see them.
That green one, yeah.
Do you agree that they could be evil spirits that look like frogs? I think so. I don't think that it's too far.
Well, in those days they had nothing to compare it to except for a frog.
Yeah, I think that they look like frogs, and I think again it's like, well, wow, like this is not veering off course. Where Christians are left like flabbergasted and have no idea what's going on. To me, it's fitting in very closely with Christianity. It's not that far off. I'm just closing some tabs here, Margaret. But yeah, 3 unclean spirits, and obviously they are going to come from the deception of the dragon, the beast, and the false prophet. And we can't make claims that are like, yep, that's exactly it, nor am I. But as a Christian that's kind of just looking through, trying to see where things fit, 3 evil spirits like frogs. If these guys show up to me, okay, as a Christian, I would say, wow, yeah, I think they're demonic. I think they're either evil fallen angels or they're their spirits manifesting. It says in the end days that pretty much Satan will have powers for resurrection. It's almost like Jesus had his time. Jesus from heaven came. He was empowered with the Holy Spirit. We saw the Spirit come down. We heard from heaven, "This is my Son who I am very well pleased." All of a sudden now he has his ministry doing, signs, wonders, and miracles. There is an antichrist that as well has a 3.5 year ministry in a way to wreak havoc. There's the unholy Trinity as well functioning. So yeah, but it's not clear. No Christian should be making solid claims on.
Excuse me.
I've
So
heard of this guy. He's very interesting.
this Antichrist, I know there's going to be many Antichrists, but the one I'm thinking of, Satan, is he going to be born like in Rosemary's Baby, or is he just going to appear?
There's all sorts of Christians are scratching their head, coming up with a lot. Some believe that the Antichrist will come directly from AI. Some think that there are previous foreshadows of Antichrist. Some think that the DNA of Nimrod will be brought back. That there's all sorts of things, but there is clear step-by-step things, a timeline that Christians can benefit from them, to know, like, okay, well, we're not talking about the mark of the beast yet because there's no clear beast yet. There's nobody claiming to be, there's no one person that is in charge of a political structure that has dominion over all other nations and stuff like that. So to be honest, I'm still learning about that. It wasn't a priority. I look at end time stuff. It becomes a little bit more clear, but then I leave it aside, and then I come back to it. And it's work that I need to do a little bit more as well. But the book of Revelation, I think, is the best way to go, is again that study that I showed you, Roystein Bethel, and that I am going to make here. I have it actually popped up right here. I'm pretty much finished the first study. It's this one. I popped it up at the start. So Revelation there, and I'm basing it on this guy on YouTube. So go see Royston Bethel if you're in a hurry. Even if you watch his, you can rewatch mine as a review. It'll stick more in your head. There's a lot of information. There's 41 videos, and they're each about an hour and a half to almost an hour and 50. So there is a lot of information. This guy ties in stuff that I would have never seen. So I want credit to go to this guy. And I want people that are part of my channel to go see that ahead of time. Seeing
I
my
gotta
version.
tell you something that happened. My
Sure.
son came to drop off more boxes that we're going to transport one of these Thursdays because we have to hook up. He has to hook up with the guy from Toronto. But anyways, he went and he did some groceries and he picked me up some avocados, which was really sweet of him.
Yeah.
And he was looking over the meat counter. And well, you eat that stuff?
Mhm.
And my son's just like, what the heck is going on here? You murderer. You're filthy. So then he just walked away, like, to get away from her. But she's like yelling and screaming, and everyone's looking at her. And he says, how embarrassing. Like, people are looking at me, looking at her.
Yeah. So this is like a crazy vegan that did that?
Yes. So then he leaves that store and he's got the radio on and they're talking. And okay, the city of Montreal, they want to ban the use of cars.
Really?
So he says, okay, allowed to eat meat. You eat meat, you're murderer, you're filthy, you're dirty.
Yeah.
You drive your car, you're filthy, you're polluting the planet, you're killing people. And he says, you can't do this, you can't do that. No, don't do this.
Yeah.
Where is our freedom? Like,
World War III is a war on humanity. We're the disgusting meat eating, CO2 producing viruses on, very dehumanizing.
I started to laugh, and he says, "No, Mom, she had crazy eyes, like really crazy eyes." And like I left, I walked away from her, and she's ranting.
End stage veganism.
My poor son.
Yeah, the minute when it gets to veganism, okay, you got the typical vegan, but then eventually they seem to evolve very often into the next deception of a raw vegan. So now everything's raw, which actually makes it even harder to get nutrients from them. Cooking things and stuff like that denatures a lot of certain enzymes, anti-nutrients, lectins, tannins, oxalates. All of these defense mechanisms can be somewhat, boiled away, you could say, and it helps the nutrients that are there to be absorbed. But then you go raw vegan, and then after they take the next step, and then after they go ahead and do just fruitarian. And like we have a recent story, we could pop that one up another time, about a recent YouTube influencer that died just eating fruits and stuff like that. I mean, there you're really not getting anything, and they deteriorate a lot quicker. Darla has a question, I believe. She says in capitals, did you hear about the cow in Texas with TB? They are killing them all. Wonder if this affects cows. Well, I'm sure.
Well, in Texas, you have all these immigrants and illegals coming in, and the farmers will hire them, pay them under the table.
Yeah.
But these people have tuberculosis, which is passed on to the animals.
Yeah.
And the 180,000 cows that died in the barn, they said it was a lightning strike.
Really? It was just a culling. They were just killing them all.
Yeah, because they had TB. Because they don't want to lose. Where do you get the good meat from? Texas. The good beef.
Maybe there's something up with JD. I haven't seen him active in over a month. Let me just run to his channel and see if.
Yeah, I was there last week, and it was all quiet.
My goodness. Let me see Garland Farms. He's back online. There's some environmental things that occurred too, right? Recently.
Yeah, our Ottawa River. There's a nuclear plant there that's leaking.
Super.
Tritonium, something like that. That's leaking in the water.
Jeez. There's JD seems to, his last activity was like a month ago. So there might be a lot of stuff happening there that's keeping him busy as well. Let's play a little bit more. I think my wife just arrived. So did we get a large amount of what you wanted to show in this video?
No, it's just theorizing that he's doing.
Okay.
Yeah.
So let's go over here. You want to see the Shroud of Turin one you sent me?
If you have time.
Yeah.
Is the Shroud of Turin actually the burial cloth of Jesus Christ, or merely an elaborate forgery? Can modern science finally confirm or debunk its connection to the crucifixion? And most importantly, what does this mean for our understanding of faith, history, and the boundaries of scientific history? Well, make sure that you stay tuned till the end to find out. What exactly is the Shroud of Turin? Let's start with the basics. The Shroud of Turin is no ordinary piece of fabric. It's a tantalizing glimpse into the past.
Give me a shout if you want me to stop it.
I just want to ask you something.
Yeah.
In South America, I think again in Peru, or is it Ecuador? They Veracocha is the god's name. There's a rock face that they sculptured, and it's the same face as Jesus.
Really?
Blew my mind. Yeah.
Wow, that's cool. Send me a link if you find that out.
Yeah.
let's try and get through this quickly, and then we might have to
Isaac's
call it a night.
Okay.
explanation. Picture this: a barrier cloth intricately woven, bearing the full-size, high-resolution image of a naked crucified man. But here's the catch: it's in negative form. The image appears as if it seeped through the very fabric, leaving us in shock and questioning the laws of science themselves. Now here's where things get really interesting. For over 115 years, the Shroud of Turin has been studied by eager scientists seeking answers. But no one has been able to replicate this image, not even with the most advanced scientific technology of our time. It defies explanation and duplication. And let's address the skeptics, those who dismiss the shroud as clever forgery. They point to the controversial radiocarbon dating tests conducted in 1988, which claimed the shroud was a medieval creation. But guess what? Turns out those tests were dead wrong.
Yep.
To hit a place where a yarn segment from the original shroud was spliced into the new reweave part, the splice, very definitely shows the new yarn that was being put in and dyed to match. The only thing in the shroud that was dyed or stained was this radiocarbon area.
His findings were later confirmed by John Brown from Georgia Tech and Bob Villarreal from Los Alamos National Laboratory. The shroud's authenticity is now supported by an array of scientific evidence, leaving the critics trembling in the face of a new truth. Now let's delve into the mesmerizing realm of blood chemistry.
I mean, right down to see how they remade the statue of Christ. You can still see that at the time, rigor mortis was still in place. His legs were still in that curved area where it would have been when he died. He would have had that angle from his ankles being nailed.
We're talking no pigments, but blood. And not just any blood, it's type AB, a rarity among the general population, but intriguingly more common among the Jewish people. But here's where things take a chilling turn: the vivid red color of the blood.
Yeah. When something stays red, it's because of bilirubin, high concentrations of bilirubin. Oh, wow. Look at that. Very nice.
Oh, Minnie Mouse.
Disney is evil.
That's Minnie Mouse, Grandpa.
It's Minnie Mouse. Give me a hug. I like her dress.
Minnie Mouse is funny.
You can say hi. Hi.
Hey, pretty girl.
You know where Jesus is? Up in the sky? Not sure yet? Okay. I haven't brainwashed her yet. Yeah, so it stays red when there's bilirubin. Let me see if I'm right.
You see, normal blood ages and turns dark over time, but this blood on the shroud defies all logic. It remains red, frozen in a moment of agony. So what does this tell us? Brace yourselves for a shocker. The blood chemistry indicates that when the human body endures unspeakable torment, the hemoglobin in the blood breaks down, giving rise to an enzyme called bilirubin, causing the blood to retain its vibrant crimson shade indefinitely. The conclusion is chilling. The individuals wrapped within the shroud experienced unimaginable suffering. The bloodstains cascading down the arms bear witness to the cruel crucifixion, with the angle of the blood flowing perfectly matching the movements of a crucifixion victim, desperately shifting positions to breathe. And here's a crucious fact. The bloodstains came first, preceding the image itself. Experts deduced that this unique image process occurred precisely 72 hours after the blood made contact with the cloth, as if some otherworldly force brought forth the sacred transformation. Astonishingly, neither of the men whose imprints adorn the shroud decomposed while in its embrace. A baffling convergence of science and spirituality, wouldn't you say? And what's even more intriguing? After 3 days, Jesus rose from the dead. And Dr. Joseph Kohlbeck, a brilliant researcher, stumbled upon a groundbreaking discovery while examining the Shroud of Turin.
Who's that?
He found something remarkable: dirt. But not just any dirt. This dirt contained a remarkable blend of travertine, aragonite, and Jerusalem limestone. The very limestone found in the tombs of Jesus in Jerusalem. Coincidence? I think not. It was as if the very earth beneath Jesus' feet had left its mark on the shroud. As the investigation continued, an astonishing array of 49 different types of pollen emerged from the fabric. Here's where it gets intriguing. 33 of these pollen types originated solely in Palestine, with 3 being exclusive to Jerusalem from March through April. Could one of these plants have been the infamous crown of thorns? Well, a possibility indeed. Now let's explore scientific technologies. Carbon-14 dating? Forget about it. A groundbreaking method called wide-angle X-ray scattering has emerged, placing the fabric within the time of Jesus Christ. More accurate, more reliable.
But then you don't hear any of that. It's just not being acknowledged. Like when I do the Shroud of Turin, I always end up hearing like, oh yeah, it's medieval, and no, it never gets to anybody. Let me see if Margaret's gotten kicked out.
No, I'm still here.
Okay, all right. You're too quiet. Here, let's bring this down. We're almost done. We're almost through this.
But let's zoom in on the eyes of the man in the shroud, for they hold a curious secret. Physicists John Jackson and Eric Jumper suggest that faint traces over the eyes could be ancient coins used in Jewish burials during the 1st century. Remarkably, these coins match the size of those used by Pontius Pilate between 2nd BC and 32-33 AD. Coincidence or evidence? Size matters, they say. And the shroud size is strikingly close to 2 by 8 cubits, an ancient unit of measurement. But here's where things get truly captivating. That 3-inch wide side strip on the shroud, sewn with a unique stitch known to be only used in Palestine during the 1st century. The very stitch that connects us to the past. But what about the crucifixion itself? Archaeological revelations challenge centuries of artistic depictions. Nails were driven through the wrists, not the palms. The shroud echoes this truth, portraying one foot with a single nail and the other foot with 2, allowing rotation of the victim to gasp for breath. The nails, the wounds, the shroud, it all aligns in a chillingly authentic way. And speaking of the crown of thorns, you won't believe what they found in the shroud. Sharp object puncture wounds all around the head, accompanied by pollen from the very plant known for its thorny nature. The evidence aligns astonishingly with the biblical narrative.
Yeah, he was part of the STURP, in the 1970s, the ones that did extensive research. I think the carbon dating was in 1988, if I'm not mistaken. Thing, but he spent the rest of his life talking about the shroud.
Yeah,
he was Jewish. Joe is it Joe Schwartz, I think.
As we explore further, the shroud uncovers even more. Abrasions on the shoulders indicate the burden of carrying a heavy, rough object, perhaps a cross. Soil mixed with blood reveals moments of stumbling and falling, leaving its mark on the fabric. The wound on the nose, possibly broken from a fall or a beating, add yet another layer of authenticity to the shroud's narrative. And let's not forget the side wound, a 2-inch wide elliptical wound, reminiscent of a Roman spear. The back image of the shroud displays a separation of blood and clear blood serum, a phenomenon observed when a person dies from a wound. It's a chilling resemblance to the biblical account as written in John's Gospel. All these astonishing details, my friends, converge to fit one man and one story in history, Jesus Christ. You see, the image imprinted on this ancient cloth has astounded scientists and physicists, searching for answers that continue to elude them. There is no clear explanation for how this remarkable image came to be, but brace yourselves for a mind-boggling theory. Several brilliant minds in the field of physics proposed that an intense burst of high-energy radiation created the coloration on the linen fabrics of the shroud. And get this, it will require more power than all the electrical energy generated on our entire planet combined. It's an electrifying revelation, to say the least. But wait, the plot thickens. Prepare yourself for a revelation that will send shockwaves through your very core. Recent research conducted by scientists in Paloma, Italy, has uncovered something truly extraordinary. The image on the shroud has been found to be moving. Yeah, you heard that right. The figure captured on the shroud seems to exhibit slight movements, similar to the one you see on the screen now, called stroboscopic photography. Imagine bursts of energy emanating from the man's body, causing the hands, feet, and chest to shift ever so slightly.
I mean, the minute that I found out that DNA is a source of biological light, I mean, it's not a crazy assumption that through DNA, that light, bursts to this insane, frequency.
or intensity, without necessarily creating heat, because there's no scorch marks. It's really just biophoton imaging that's been put on the shroud.
What does this mean? It means, my dear viewers, that the very resurrection of Jesus Christ may have been captured on the sacred fabric of the Shroud of Turin. Can you believe that?
Yeah.
The resurrection of Jesus caught on the sacred fabric. But wait, there's more. The renowned Paris-based organization Kyret has made groundbreaking discoveries that will leave you in shock. Hidden within the fabric itself, they've uncovered writings that defy explanation. 3 distinct lines below and beside the chin reveal clear and precise inscriptions. So how did they decipher this enigma? By carefully dividing the shroud's official photographs into countless squares and analyzing their optical density using advanced visualization techniques. As they delved deeper, remarkable letters emerged, Latin and Greek characters. Astonishingly, the words Jesus is written beneath the chin, with Nazarene on one side. Can you believe it? It appears that condemned individuals had their names recorded on a cloth by the exterior mortis, the one responsible for ensuring their demise. Miraculously, the shroud remained unaffected by this process, leaving the imprint intact. Thus, the man depicted is unmistakably Jesus, our divine savior. In my humble opinion, this evidence is nothing short of a divine message, a confirmation from God himself. We now have scientific proof that Jesus sacrificed himself to save us all. So, what are your thoughts on this theory? Does it strengthen your faith or leave you with more questions? Leave your thoughts in the comments.
Yeah, I'm a staunch believer in the burial cloth. Like I'm 100% sold on that. What about
Well,
you?
they tried to say that it was Leonardo da Vinci's paint.
Yeah,
That was debunked.
Yeah, yeah. There's zero paint on there at all. You know, most of the findings show that the image is not even like we're not talking about a thread. We're talking about each individual fiber of what we would consider a thread, right? Is right on the periphery, right on the surface. It doesn't even go through one fiber. It's on the surface, and it's also like if you leave a newspaper out, well, a newspaper eventually doesn't get burned, but it turns brown and old. You can tell those old newspapers just from the light.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we could tell that this light, this intense light, degraded the cellulose in the threading. I guess that would be correct to say. But we have the blood and all the biological fluid that seeped deep into and penetrated the fibers. So we see that there is here. Just a moment.
Yeah. But also Hiroshima, when they dropped the bombs.
Yeah.
The people
Images
that were walking and standing, their shadows are imprinted.
Yeah.
On the walls that didn't collapse.
Yeah.
Just like on the shroud. So something nuclear happened.
Yeah. So like an X-ray, obviously, when we go, we don't feel like warmth as it shoots through our body and goes onto the X-ray medium. It's like there's an image of us through what? X-rays. We have a certain spectrum of light that we can see, and then there's the unseeable things, and we use X-rays, and it just makes total sense that the image of this man that's on the shroud, that just coincidentally, just a coincidence, has every single mark of the man in the so-called fairy tale gospels. And plus there's the sudarium that goes over the face that they have located in Oviedo. So you have a guy who made a hoax, right? That science still cannot do, that says there's zero pigmentation from paint, that there's byproducts there of that appear in blood only in tortured individuals. And yeah, so we're left with this, and for me, that is that's an archaeological evidence for Christianity. I'm surprised that more Christians don't go to that. Very odd. I'm not sure why. You know what? Let's leave it at that. Granddaughter's here. Are you gonna say bye?
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, thanks guys for coming. I should start putting timestamps in the description. I've been getting a lot of criticism on videos that there's no timestamps, but should I put timestamps? All right,
Okay.
I'm gonna get busy. Yeah, she has some stuff to tell me. All right, God bless. See you guys. Bye bye. Say bye. The minute I press end broadcast, then she'll be like, see you guys. Say bye. Look, you can see Grandpa. Nothing? All right. Guarantee you she's going to start saying bye once I press this.